here we are. The path to the SMITE World Championship has finally begun. Welcome in as we start off here in our placement week. The top two from console that remain have made it. The top from the SMITE Minor League have made it here as well. And then the bottom four from the SPL are also in this pool. And only two of those 10 teams will get to join the top six from the SPL that are already waiting for them at DreamHack Atlanta. So this whole week is huge just to determine who even has a shot at trying to take down the very best of the SPL. My name is Finch, and I'm joined here on the desk by Zeros. At Zeros, we are about to move into placement week, and we're coming out of the gates hot. This very first match that we're looking at, this is Outcold from the SML EU Minor League up against the very best team from console, the winners of the SMITE console championships here this year, Hype Unit. I'll go through that path that they're all taking. We already completed the SPL Phase 2. We are right smack dab in the middle of the placement week, and as I mentioned, only two teams will be able to make out of this grueling 3rd through the 8th matchup all the way to the World Championship. That's going to be happening November 15th through the 17th. And if for some reason you don't have your tickets, go ahead and pick those up right now. Go to highresexpo.com. And here is that bracket I was just mentioning too, Hype Unit, were of course your winners yesterday if you joined us. If you missed those matches, go back and watch them because they were certainly exciting. That earned them the right to go play up against Outcold. Meanwhile, Team Rival will be going up against Hype Unit down in the SML. And this is all just part of the upper bracket. There's going to be a lower bracket they can drop down to. The winner of Outcold and Hype Unit, they'll be going on to face off in that upper bracket later on. And down here is your second chance. This whole entire placement week is double elimination. That means you have to lose 2 sets to be removed from it. All the way towards the bottom, you get down there to the loser finals, and the winner of that will guarantee themselves a spot at Worlds, as well as the winner of the winners finals as well. It's happening up on the top side. And Zeros, that was a lot as we make our way here to
long intro.
Yeah, a long intro. But man, how are you feeling? I mean, you can kind of feel it here in the studio here, how important all these matches are.
Yeah, for sure. Especially these two first ones I want to see, because I really want to see how the console players, probably playing on the mouse and keyboard today rather than a controller, to see how they can fend up against the SML teams.
Yeah, you're exactly right, man. I know that Hype Unit, for the most part, have been doing all of their practice coming up this week on mouse and keyboard. They are indeed all 5 going to be playing on mouse and keyboard here today as well. And what a challenge for them right out of the gate in the form of Outcold. This team came into Season 6 with a ton of expectations. Dimi and PrettyPriMe were here. There were some rumors that they might even have Emilito joining that roster too, though that ended up falling through. But even still, they persevered. They added Breez in the support role, a competitor from Heroes of the Storm, so not new to esports, but new to our scene, and they've really come in and made this team start to work together.
Yeah, and I mean, they have so many veterans on this team as well. You have Dimi, world champion, PrettyPriMe has been in the second place a couple of times, so this interview with Dimi now.
Yeah, they're exactly right. Dimi, at this point, I mean, he's been a leader for this team here out of the solo lane, and like you were mentioning, we will have a chance here to be able to hear some of those thoughts from Dimi.
Yeah, this year is a bit different. Like in the past, I've won tournaments and I've been to a lot of lands, and it's been great. This one it's a lot more relaxed. There's not too much at stake, I think. We still want to win, but it is a long process, and we also focus on having fun here, and I think that's a great part of it. I am personally super confident, like low-key super confident in our ability. There's a lot of like memes going on about like, oh, it's just like a little land, but I think we're super strong, and I think we have the potential to kind of take everyone by surprise. Yeah, my fiercest opponent this LAN is, well, it's meant to be Maniac, I think. Had a lot of fun time sparing him in lane and like scrims and all that stuff, and I think he's just still a beast, and it's gonna be rough, but it's gonna be fun. Just kind of proving that, you know, I can still make it, even though I haven't had as much time or effort to bring it in. I think would be a huge achievement for me personally. Yeah.
Hard to imagine that a man with Dimi's record here in SMITE, as a storied career, feels like he still has anything left to prove, but clearly still playing with a bit of a chip on his shoulder. Wants to be able to show that he can still get it done, even if he has to come up from the minor league and take that harder path. He still wants to show he can play at that highest level. I suppose that drive really never goes away.
Nah, for sure, it doesn't. I think the only issue for Dimi is like he's been playing in SML in Europe, and like all the top SPL teams are staying in America now, so I think like the kind of practice that Outcold has been getting through the year has not been as good as the SPL teams. But I think if they can get a good warm-up set here, like maybe win this one pretty confident, they could look really good going into the next other week, I think.
It's just not going to be easy for them. I know that Hype Unit is a console team, but a lot of these players are very, very comfortable in PC as well. Inbound largely only streams on PC. They all play at this high level, and they trust themselves, too, to be able to step up and play up against the SPL teams when it mattered. I mean, Inbound's even stepped up and played at that high level before on PC, so this is certainly a team that can get it done, and I really think the big matchup between them is going to be in the jungle, between Layers, who has been the catalyst for Hype Unit, especially in Phase 2, had really been their big-time performer, and then FrostiaK over there for Outcold. Because there's two versions of FrostiaK. There's the kind of version of FrostiaK that looks like he should be on a top 4 SPL team right now, and then there's the other version of him where I'm like, I'm not even sure if I want him on my SML team. There's so much variance with him that depending on which version we get, that's how this set could go.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with that. I think FrostiaK is probably a little bit more consistent than that. But
sure,
like,
maybe not quite that wide.
But he can be such a beast when he's playing his A game.
Certainly can, yeah.
And like Layers yesterday was really popping off, especially on the set jungle. He played so many games yesterday and looked really good. So yeah, as you said, they're gonna be a really interesting matchup. I think one of the other matchups I'm looking for is Dimi against Wolves.
Sure.
Because Wolves have been like, even on the controller, he looks really good. It's gonna be really interesting to see what he can do on a mouse and keyboard.
You're exactly right, man. It's not just Layers. The Wolves over here, the solo laner for Hype Unit, largely thought of across his career as just the best player on console in general. I think Layers and OBoronic got pretty close to contesting that title towards the end here of Season 6. But that entire squad, you can tell our casters aren't quite ready just yet. That entire squad, though, is at that high level of play. And that's why that solo lane matchup is going to be huge, too, because Wolves has a diverse god pool. We saw the Odin from him yesterday. I don't know if he's as willing to pull that out on keyboard and mouse as he is on some other levels, but certainly willing to play some things that maybe Outcold don't always get a chance to go up against.
Yeah, maybe. Like, it's so hard to tell, because like the way they played yesterday compared to how they played today could be completely different, right? Probably pretty hard for Outcold to prepare for this set as well, thinking about it.
And then consider the other really important matchup, which is these supports. Breez, as we mentioned, has looked good for them here, but doesn't have nearly as much history behind him in SMITE as a lot of these other players. And then there's Inbound on the other side, who can sometimes play at a really high level, the same variant I mentioned with FrostiaK, or sometimes he can int a little bit for your team too. I mean, we saw him struggle in their very first game in that set up against a rival, but then he got back into the groove. So that support matchup too is another one to keep your eyes on, as Outcold first picked the Serqet for themselves, but Hype Unit take the King Arthur for the solo lane.
Yeah, really like the first pick is Serqet, because you saw Inbound yesterday. Whenever he could play Serqet, he would. Did struggle in the early game yesterday, but like as soon as he got past the early game, he was doing well. So like a really smart first pick by Outcold, I think.
Interesting. They also grabbed the Morrigan this early on. Not quite sure who's going to be the pilot on this one between Crimson and oBoronic, but certainly just a strong god you want on your squad. But it does mean that tier can still be open for Dimi to take over to the solo lane.
Yeah, for sure. Like tier, like one of the premier tier players is Dimi, right?
Yep.
Been for his whole career pretty much so. And now with the buff tier as well, King Arthur against tier, that's going to be a real fun matchup to watch.
Should be fireworks over there in the solo lane between Wolves as well as between Dimi, so we'll keep our eye on that one. Meanwhile, Thor comes in for FrostiaK, and you talked about how maybe I made his range a little bit too wide, but Thor is one of his more consistent picks, I would say for sure. He really does perform well on this, so getting something comfortable into FrostiaK's hands early to get him off to a good start, I think that's exactly the right call here for Outcold.
Yeah, for sure. Like, Thor is such a good god in general now as well. Like, especially FrostiaK is a good 4 player, and then 4 in the meta is just so good right now. Like, such good early game as well. 4 Serqet, a lot of CC, a lot of gank potential. Like, it's really hard to play carries against that combination.
And Cabrakan coming in for Hype Unit. That's a bit of a layer special. I imagine this will be in the jungle for Hype Unit. And this can potentially be strong up against the tier who kind of needs an ultimate to get around it. Right now, the lockdown from that wall isn't perfect. Yeah. All 3 of these gods can maneuver around it, but that surprise burst in the early game could potentially be plenty strong on its own, even if he's not trapping anyone. Yeah,
what I'm thinking about mainly though, like Morrigan, Cabrakan transformation, like it's really strong, because I talk about it a lot. With Morrigan, when you transform, you want to transform into something that doesn't get one shot. Cabrakan doesn't. He's a guardian, right? He can build like bruisery. And then also you want something that's really explosive and has a lot of burst damage. That's Cabrakan.
Exactly right. So maybe that's going to be the plan here, is to give Morrigan a really good target. Merlin also coming in, and I believe it was oBoronic we saw playing this one yesterday at a high level. So that might mean that this Morrigan is then for Crimson, which potentially means it's Cabrakan, which I think is in the jungle, means we still need a support from Hype Unit, but Outcold go right to the Chronos. This one has to be, I'm thinking, for Spudio.
Really smart pick, I think. You want some backline that are really safe against the Morrigan, right? And the Cabrakan as well, if it's going to be Blink Cabrakan.
Right.
What is more safe than a Chronos with the rewind?
Just immediately drop that rewind once you hear that blink sound effect, because you're probably not going to have much more time to think other than that. So they still need one more carry here for Outcold, and they don't have a ton of AoE magic damage. Chronos sometimes can hit multiple people, but he feels a bit more single target, so Hera certainly covers that mark for you by bringing down the Argus.
That is that's a bold pick against Morrigan and Cabrakan. I said even Merlin, if he ever gets blinked, like walled in by Cabrakan, and there's Merlin damage on top of that, you have Morrigan that can go on you as well and transform into another Cabrakan and wall you again. So definitely a bold pick coming out from Prime.
It is a bit surprising, isn't it, that Outcold into this Cabrakan would pick 2 carries. They don't have the easiest time getting out. I mean, yes, Chronos can rewind, and that can often help him, but it requires an ultimate, basically, for them to be able to outmaneuver outside of that response with the Cabrakan. And it looks like perhaps it is going to be Cabrakan support, because now the Ravana comes in for Hype Unit. This was a chance. Inbound does play some Cabrakan, but I would have thought it was Layers.
So many good transformations for the Morrigan here. Ravana, one of the top transformations. Serqet, one of the top transformations. You have the Cabrakan. You have Thor for global. Like this Morrigan, if played well, can do so much in this game. I have to mention as well, Ravana so good against Hera. You can use his overhand kick on the polymorph and also on the Chronos stun as well. So Ravana, really good pick at diving these 2 carries.
And it feels like Outcold are a little bit more setup heavy than they are peel heavy. I mean, this Hera could be potentially in some trouble. She has some good peel options for herself, but how are these backliners going to have to play this game in particular?
Yeah, that's the thing. It's kind of weird for Hera, because I feel like Hera, you want a lot of peel around, right? And like they do have good peel. There's a lot of CC coming out from Thor, Tyr, and Serqet, but I feel like all those 3 gods, what they want to do is kind of dive the enemy backline, right? And it's kind of a hard backline to dive, because obviously you don't see Morrigan a lot. She's going to be in stealth. You have Merlin. I guess Merlin's going to be the target, but maybe they just change the focus and just try to peel for this Hera and let this Hera and Chronos do all the work.
I mean, right now it's looking like the thread is between the Merlin and the Hera, and which one of them are going to do a better time just buying a little bit of time for their team when they're getting dove, can get all their damage off relevant, and then if they end up having to die, at least they've done enough. But that feels kind of like the thread to me. It's a lot of dive on both sides, and they might be leaving their backlines to kind of fend for themselves. When you were in those spots, you get to fend for yourself. How much does it change the game for you?
It changed a lot. I'd prefer to just play Morrigan, because you never have to worry about it then, because you're in stealth all the time anyway.
Exactly.
So yeah, but it's hard. Like Merlin, for example, he's pretty slippery with his blink, right? But still, it's a short blink, and like Serqet, Thor, and Tyr has no problem chasing you after that flickering. So it's definitely, I think Merlin's gonna have to play this really well, like good positioning and all that.
It is gonna have to be a very high execution, I'm thinking here, from Hype Unit, not just from this Merlin, but if it's gonna be Cabrakan support here for this team, that's not always where we see this god getting played either. There's a lot of sort of risks or chances that Hype Unit are taking. They're gonna have to make sure that they end up working, but we won't have to wonder what's gonna happen for much longer. Outcold and Hype Unit, game 1 starting now.
Thanks so much, Finch, and Zero's on the desk. Joining in the broadcast is going to be aggro this morning, and it's going to be a good one too. We open the placements up between Outcold Gaming, one of the minor league representatives from Europe, and Hype Unit, who we got to see yesterday from the console league. And now they get to face off in a very interesting battle in game 1.
I'm really excited. This is going to be a really fun matchup to watch. I've got pretty high expectations for Hype Unit, despite not looking very good yesterday. They were on controller yesterday, keyboard and mouse today. I know from talking to these guys, they've spent a lot of time prepping, their eyes on this part of the bracket more so than their own World Championship. They really wanted to make noise against a lot of these PC teams, and as such have been scrimming with that keyboard and mouse. I expect them to look better today against better competition.
Hype Unit going to put some deep wards in their own jungle here, watching their purple buff on the left-hand side and the speed buff. As Outcold do get aggressive on the right-hand side, it's Inbowned on this left-hand side now on the Cabrakan, trying to zone away Prime and FrostiaK. As Frosty was potentially starting at that red buff there, or maybe more for vision than anything else. He's actually going to go back towards it. Inbound going to blink over Prime in mid and head towards that speed buff.
And FrostiaK, cool with all this. He doesn't mind. He's looped underneath, but look at where Layers is. Yeah. He meets him at the red buff, and with Inbound on the way, this is just Hype Unit poking the bear, almost, saying, hey, what are you going to do if we just don't let you do any of this? FrostiaK's not going to get any farm to start us off.
Surprised he's going to go straight back to the speed buff there, not even take the Harpies on the way, but I do understand the mentality. Inbound going to get a chance to rotate back towards that now. Meanwhile, Breez on this right-hand side for Outcold has invaded the blue buff and heads towards the back Harpies and potentially even the speed buff here as well. Build options, you can see Boots 2 for EruptCrimson this time round. Same can be said for that Breez Serqet, as FrostiaK does manage to secure his own speed and may get some help from Prime there.
Uh-oh, Spudio's had to use beads on this left-hand side. Breez done a good job of getting something on the other end of the map. I mean, he's gotten blue buff and speed buff now. In fact, even leaving the small on speed to make sure that they don't have that respawn coming up soon. It's just denying farm for longer and longer up against Layers. But it also does prevent you from getting timer on that speed buff. So it's a bit of an awkward decision a lot of times. This tells me that Outcold doesn't want to play aggressive on that next speed buff spawn. If they did, they would make sure they had timer.
This day and ages supports it get more of the jungle camps than the junglers themselves. As aggression a bit late from Breez on Inbound, but Inbound stuns him in place, and the damage return from oBoronic is good, but not enough for a kill just yet. Both health potions ticking on Breez there. Chalice and the normal health potion. We've seen some more of this as the season's progressed.
And that huge kill that almost went Hype Unit's way didn't go their way because of Totem of Coup. oBoronic doesn't get the first coup, doesn't go the way of Wolves in a matchup where it might.
Bobby got a little bit too aggressive there. Those fists from August nearly confirmed a potential kill. So now he's got to regen a little bit more, and he doesn't have those health potions no more.
No, he doesn't. He's all out, but should be going back to base pretty soon anyways. He'll have enough for Boots 2, get a couple wards, and be pretty safe. But now another Totem of Coup goes Dimi's way, and that's pretty important in this start where you go with the Boots 2 and the Lost Artifact. Lost Artifact is a little bit of MP5, but not a whole lot.
Blink from Bobby, looking at Prime, and Primal pre-beats the stun before the hand slap. Turns around with the Polymorph to help FrostiaK out of trouble, because Layers was just wrapping around the corner there looking for first blood. All this pressure from Hype Unit, though, is about the same time as the Reds available. Bad news is, Spudio was already cleared out the wave and duo, so he would have been there for support if needed.
But Dimi's going to try and get a solo invade on this side of the map. Dimi, knowing that he's got the wave pushing in his favor, Wolves is leaving some minions behind to try and confirm this, and he will manage to get it somehow. Normally Tyr, one of the best in the game at doing those invades, because you can't deal damage to the camp while it's getting grabbed by him outside of leash range. But Wolves with a very intelligent cripple in order to keep Dimi from using that Fearless.
Tyr back on the rise after the Fearless change in terms of having that defensive stance, and no surprise to see Dimi, two-time world champion, picking it back up for himself. He's had a few games on this in the past.
One or two,
Just a couple, you know?
He's a little bit comfortable with this pick. And look, I like Hype Unit's plan. They've clearly watched a lot of what Outcold did during the regular season. King Arthur was a priority pick for this Outcold gaming team all phase. And so taking that away, giving it over to Wolves, who's very comfortable on the god himself, I think does make a lot of sense. And I've got no problem with that plan in picks and bans, but a lot of the phase didn't have Tyr with blue stance knockup.
Well, at the same time, I think Outcold did their homework, recognizing that Inbound has looked very good on the Serqet, but when he's been on anything but that Serqet, he's kind of slipped up a couple times and made a couple of mistakes, so taking that away and giving it over to Breez. Big game for Breez here today. Agreed.
That is also something that I like in picks and bans, is when you are able to take away something. And don't forget, Breez has played a ton of Serqet himself.
Yeah.
This is not a pick that he's had to add to the repertoire for this LAN or anything close to that. He's been really, really impactful on this Serqet. No blessing for him this time around. He's rushed the boots, and they're power boots. He doesn't go for the Guardian boots. So he's going to be doing a lot of damage.
Some of these players could be in the SPL waiting room, but Prime under pressure in mid lane. Great wall from FrostiaK, but it won't be enough to stop the clap out of Inbound. Connecting for that first blood. Hype Unit with a nice little pick onto this Hera early.
And I wonder, I mean, is Outcold really giving Hype Unit really the respect they deserve? Your Hera, no beads, not level 5. You know they've got double blinks coming out of jungle and support. I don't know that that's the best positioning there from Prime. He's got to be a little bit more careful. The CC chain capability is great here. And Hype Unit's kind of tipping their hand a little bit. They're going to be looking to kill Prime an awful lot.
Breez going to blink in, secure the blue buff, but may be punished because of it. Ambushes his way as Dimi. Lawbrick is over for the blue buff. He wasn't going for a kill there. It was more, I want that blue.
Efficiency. And just in case they wanted to try and blink after him or do a little bit of extra damage.
It looked cool.
And it looked cool, so that's the main operative.
I think we don't give enough points towards style these days, and we really should, you know?
I mean, tier ult is one of the coolest ults in the entire game.
Agreed.
It feels so good to use. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just a big tier fanboy. Not as much as F-Dot, but certainly there.
Left-hand side, we're going to see the Morrigan played by Crimson today. I've not seen a whole ton of Morrigan from the console team, so this is definitely an adaptation into PC play, so to speak, with them using keyboard and mouse for this now. And up against Spudio, who's been touted as a future SPL player for quite a while, honestly. He nearly made it to World Championships last year.
That's right. Was on that Mouse Sports roster that did very well. They did make a roster change and pull him off, I believe. But Spudio is a super talented player. He is a premier ADC in the European Minor League, no doubt about that. Him and Streak Up have really kind of run that part of the European Minor League all year long. I'm excited to see what Crimson can do because this is a matchup. I mean, Crim, normally a mid laner, joined this team later on with LayersSlays stepping down for Hype Unit. This is a different role for him, and this is definitely his best test. Yeah.
We could talk more about those duo laners. Obviously, Spudio here going for the tiny trinket option, so lifesteal more than likely going to be that Pythax piece. Whereas Crimson going for the Doom Mob. Surprised that we don't see a Doom Mob out of Chronos at all?
He might go for it a little bit later on, but with PrettyPriMe already going for Doom Orb, you hear Zero say it a lot on the desk. He just always wants a Pythax on his team because it provides so much whenever you do start grouping up later on. And you can afford to go with the slower curve. Doom Orb is really, really important because of how fast the curve is.
Here we go. Fire the blue buff of Hype Unit. Ult comes in from FrostiaK to the backside, but didn't find a target. The wall, though, just juggles Bobby in the sky. But Bobby is still alive with the barest amount of health. Same could not be said for Breez or Dimi. The gank has failed from Outcold. They were the ones looking to pressure.
And they should have been, because that should have been a sick dunk from FrostiaK. He just whiffs on 3 people. If he lands right there, I don't know that Outcold lose anybody. They probably 3-for-0 Hype Unit in that little corridor. And you heard Finch talk about it on the desk. A lot of how Outcold goes is how hot is FrostiaK's hand today. That's a bit of a concern.
And you see that team fight recap at the bottom of your screen there momentarily. I mean, it tells you what happened in the engagement, but it's after those players have died, how much experience is gained after the fact. And Hype Unit are all still available on the map to continue to farm up and gain a lead, and that's why we've approached around 1,700 experience for a moment or two, back down to 13 again for the moment, as Hype Unit take a small early lead.
And they get the blue buff invade. I mean, that was a pretty big fight right there for Hype Unit. Certainly not going to break the game wide open. But I think if you're Hype Unit in this game, getting a couple good fights like that under your belt just builds a lot of confidence. I mean, this is a matchup where Hype Unit is not lacking confidence by any stretch of the imagination. These are a confident group. They're back-to-back console world champions. They've certainly earned that confidence. But you're still going up against Dimi and PrettyPriMe, right? I mean,
yeah, I think that's definitely going to play in your mind a little bit, right?
100%. And so getting these couple fights going underneath your belt, feeling good about it, taking good fights, and then executing mechanically. Hype Unit is 2-for-2 on those 2 parts so far. That they really haven't been missing too much. And they're picking good fights so far. The gank in mid lane and that fight right there, that should have probably gone poorly. But, I mean, it really wasn't their fight to take. That was Outcold who initiated.
Now, we did mention the Golden Experience lead, but one thing granted is the amount of totem of coups that Dimi's managed to get for himself already, 5-1. And I think that's just allowing a little bit more of this early game to go the way of Hype Unit and not have Outcold fans really worrying too much at this stage. Because as we start to approach the mid-game, around 15 to 18 minutes, I'd say, we'll see a lot more from this team with the amount of CC they've got available and potential damage.
I mean, that Dimi's gotten 100 gold per player so far, over what Wolves has provided. 500 gold, the gold lead's what? About 1,000 right now. That's half the lead that has been kind of stripped away almost by what Dimi has done so far in that solo lane. So on for the Talaria boots. I like this choice on tier. So much of tier is just being in the right position. Your damage is really good anyways, and a lot of it is just delivering people to your actual damage dealers. So Talaria, I think, is a wise choice for Dimi.
Interested to see Breez actually going for the Guardian's Blessing, something that gets discussed quite a lot, whether or not it's even worth going for Guardians. And honestly, the amount of gold you get from that item, I'm surprised that people can still pass that up.
I agree. I mean, the idea of going the boots to start so that you can fight better on the invade makes sense to me, and I can sign off on that. I do not like a world where the support isn't going Guardian's Blessing at all. In fact, we take a look at net worth. because this Guardian's Blessing is just going to make it even better for Inbound. He's already up 1,000 gold on Breez, and that's only going to grow. Well. Sure, it's first blood, but
600 at this point.
Yeah, but at the same time, that gap is going to continue to grow. Even if they keep at the exact same pace farming, Inbound's just getting more gold per minute, courtesy of his Guardian's Blessing.
Definitely. 3-0 then as the wave is cleared in mid. Inbound going to recall back to base, continue working on those Gauntlet Thieves. A bit surprised we didn't see Hype Unit get a bit aggressive around the Gold Fury moments ago, just mainly because they had a couple of power spikes earlier. Both Doom Orbs completed for Oboronic and Crimson at that time, whereas PrettyPriMe was still working on that Doom Orb that has now been finished on his return to base. But Dimi could be in some trouble on this right-hand side.
He's got his ultimate still, but Layer's going to follow him. Doesn't land on that Mystic Rush, and that should be enough to get Dimi out of danger.
Yeah, Dimi should be able to survive under the towers. Wolves continue the aggression, but had to be careful about that man on your screen lurking. Thor can always rotate to that side if required with the ultimate. And most of the time, you'll be able to avoid those wards too, to not even see it coming.
And look, I've got no problem with that attempt on the right side by Layers and Wolves. You've already got Brawler's Beat Stick for Layers, so he's going to be able to shut down a lot of the healing that Dimi has. You force the ultimate out, you trade ults, that's totally fine. And I really like the patience. If this doesn't go perfectly right off the bat, we're backing up. We're not continuing this chase because we know FrostiaK can turn the gank.
Goon squad of Hype Unit all around this red buff. Just a little bit too late to the party though. PrettyPriMe has already been in, slipped the red buff away and fallen back to the safety of his tier 1 in mid lane once again. It's a good sign from Hype Unit early on though in this matchup. Realistically though, we do have to take into account that they did get to play yesterday, so warmed up a little bit earlier than that of this Outcold SML team. I think game 2 for me could be a big teller, especially if Hype Unit continue this pace.
That is true. I mean, I think that is important when you're warmed up and comfortable on LAN. It's been a long time since Prime and Dimi have played on a LAN setting, over a year. So that certainly factors in.
A European player just shouting, "Let's go!" and pop that accelerate. Immediately, Hype Unit went, nope, we're not going to continue the Gold Fury there. Outcold did have a ward down in the area as a Thor ult crashes towards mid lane there. Frosty was expecting an engagement, I feel, from Hype Unit getting aggressive again, looking for a pick.
Don't know if that's a ward from Outcold on Gold Fury right now. It looks like that is a blue ward by Gold. It is. So, I mean, that's good information that they had, but maybe they felt like Hype Unit was trying to lay a trap on this left side. I'm a little bit confused by that ultimate, but he's got 20% CDR already. It's certainly not the end of the world.
Frosty does have a Sentry Ward in his inventory if he wants to rotate over just to ward that up for the time being. Ward placements from Hype Unit so far. Lots of red on this left-hand side of the map. Plenty of sentries too, even all the way down to the back harpies on this left-hand side. Hype Unit really focusing on getting full vision of these rotations.
And Oboronic is really far ahead of PrettyPriMe right now. Prime going to find that out really quickly. Has to use the ultimate. He should die.
The shield was keeping him alive for a moment or two, but Frosty and Breez just not in the area. They were all over this left-hand side. And now with that one member down, Hype Unit can start to get aggressive towards the Gold Fury. You can see with that, with the fact that Dimi's now rotated to make sure this isn't going to be as easy as walking it through.
But Wolves has done the same. He's going to find FrostiaK on this red.
Oh, he beats early on, drops to the hammer and gets away. Breez, meanwhile, ults onto Inbound. But Inbound juggles him in the sky with the support of his teammate. Dimi comes in with the feelers as Frosty knocks down to secure at least one. Inbound still alive in the backside as Crimson takes out FrostiaK. Spudio over a wall will secure Inbound as now Dimi takes it on with Wolves, and Wolves is just cleaning house.
Spudio's going to have to run because Crimson and Wolves together is just a little bit too much damage. FrostiaK may have just saved the game outright with that dunk because Hype Unit was steamrolling Outcold in that team fight, but a huge dunk from FrostiaK really turns the tide. That was a great fight from Hype Unit though. I mean, Oboronic finds PrettyPriMe with some bad pathing. He comes in. I mean, he has to know that's a ward there for Hype Unit that he walks in. He was 2 levels down at the time. He just gets insta-killed off the bat and sets Hype Unit up for a good fight.
Love the work for Layers after the fact too. Has the engagement and realizing they can't do Gold Fury anymore, no more picks available. Rotates to the right-hand side, strips away the jungle. Back harpies and blue buff taken down. Just continue to limit Outcold when they try and respond to the aggression from Hype Unit.
Hype Unit's farmed incredibly well so far. A level lead for Wolves, a level lead for Layers, a level and a half for Oboronic at the very least, a level for Inbound, and a level for Crimson. This is a good XP lead so far for Hype Unit. Yeah, 4K for them so far, and that's definitely noticeable, especially when we're hovering around these level 12 marks. Prime just now hitting level 12, so he's going to back right away and get towards that Aegis. But this early aggression has actually forced him into a defensive option, which is the Stone of Binding. I wasn't sure if he was going to go Void Stone or maybe even Stone of Fall, but this Stone of Binding is the cheapest option in this tree. It's a tier 2, 1700 gold, a little bit of physical protection, a little bit of magical protection, and the passive does work well for Hera off the polymorph. But I don't know. This feels like you're slowing down your pen a lot.
Link from Breez, full combo connecting. Argus just off the mark with connecting. Inbound gonna drop the wall down to prevent Dimi getting in. Frosty ducks the backside, but gets dunked on. Aegis as early as his hammer throw wasn't the greatest. Oboronic gets the kill, and in the sky it's Crimson. Hey, FrostiaK son! Breez gonna fall down, and Dimi may be next.
What a dunk from Crimson. Hype unit coming to play, man. What a fight in mid. And this should open up an easy Gold Fury. Outcold trying to do a big execution play. But it's onto the support. The target selection really odd. I mean, Inbound is super tanky by this point in the game. And then once they've realized, okay, this isn't going to work, our damage really isn't there, Prime only has Stone of Binding as his pen, then FrostiaK commits to the dunk. Bad decision. I mean, Oboronic had no beads during that. Why aren't we just looking for him?
Gold Fury goes down. Spudio trying to defend his purple, but gotta be careful. There's so many members of Hype Unit all around him. There's only a tier 1 tower to defend him. There's no chance of escape there. With 4 members strong on this left-hand side now, this should be a tier 1 tower on top. Not only that, the purple buffing Gold Fury.
Inbound can't get caught lazy back in here, though. FrostiaK up in the air. That might have been heard, but Crimson and Layers a little bit too close together.
I think he's out of range, though. Breez can't really do much, and he will be.
Waits so
down,
long.
double tap connects, but it's only a tickle towards the level 17 Crimson. And that's the big difference here, is the duo laners have both been left alone to farm. Crimson's going to become more of a problem as this game goes on now.
I mean, he's been a huge problem so far. His transformations have been really solid. The Thor pick, I mean, you saw how much Zeros was highlighting the Ravana, the Serqet, the Cabrakan even. We didn't even mention the Thor, and I don't blame him.
It is Christmas Day as a Morrigan player, right? Well, you can't really go wrong.
No, you really can't. There's so many good transformation options, and Crimson has really leveraged them very well. I love the way that Hype Unit's played. They've got a 7K lead. Don't get it twisted here. This is their game to lose at this point. As long as they do the things they should be doing, they should have game 1.
Ryan Harpy's being looked at for a second by Inbound, but the whole squad of Hype Unit is around this area. They may look towards a Pyromancer soon. You can see how defensive Breez and PrettyPriMe are having to play at the moment. Breez still not got that second relic online just yet. Been such a focus from Outcold, I feel, to be on the defensive. And after that one play at the blue buff where we saw FrostiaK ult him, Outcold have just kind of sat back at the moment and allowed Hype Unit to take control, and they're taking control on Dimi. The Lawbringer away was good, but Bobby was waiting on follow-up, and that will be a dead Dimi. Frosty's wall will not do anything to save the life. Breez is there, but now Breez is in trouble.
Oh, wow. What an ultimate from Wolves. Catches him on the back end. No dunk coming from FrostiaK either. 2 clean picks for Hype Unit. And they're going to go right towards fire.
As you see, Spudio did at least get a tier 1 tower. May not slow down, but may have to try and defend the Fire Giant. FrostiaK has his ultimate available. Prime does too. Fire Giant at half health. Rotation back from Wolves defensively as Prime goes in, but gets collapsed on by the whole 4-man squad here of Hype Unit. He's buying enough time for respawns, but he will end up going down. Frosty at least claims the life of Crimson, but he may not get away.
No, he won't. FrostiaK's going to fall 2 for 1. On that Fire Giant. They kill Crimson, which is a big deal, and I don't know that Hype Unit feels super comfortable going for this anymore. They probably don't know Dimi's TP cooldown, and as a result, can't pull fire.
But it works out well still for Hype Unit to continue to farm up. Now that tier 2 in mid lane from Spudio, good damage there from him towards getting onto that, and then escaping away from Wolves. This is becoming a bit of an issue now, where Outcold aren't calling the rotations. I feel the ward placements from Hype Unit, giving a little bit more vision to where everybody on Outcold is, and they're finding pick after pick after pick.
I love the way that Inbound has built, in particular, this game. 2-1 and 12 for him on this Cabrakan. He's been an absolute nightmare so far. And one stat that we don't see that much focus on is crowd control reduction, but he already has 40% between his boots and the Oni Hunter's Garb, 20% apiece. And we saw Breez hit him with a Cobra's Kiss that he was only CC'd for a very brief moment. That's not what Serqets are usually used to. And there's not the non-DRable CC that much. I mean, Dimi has Fearless, and PrettyPriMe has the Polymorph. Those won't get DR'd by crowd control reduction. But he's still going to not get stunned for very long at all by FrostiaK, Spudio, Breez. And that is going to cause problems for Outcold, who have looked to pick him a lot.
And I think that's one of the reasons you go for that. You've got crowd controls like Polymorph, like the Fearless. You need to not get CC'd by some of the other ones to give you a second to breathe. Hype Unit going to breathe for a second after taking the Pyromancer there. Really uncontested from Outcold, but just looking for farm. Breez has now hit level 12 and picks up that shell to go alongside the Blink he had along with that as well. So he's got the Thebes, Warrior Tabby, and now the Relic Dagger, so that Blink and shell will be up a little bit more often. This tier 1 tower, however, will not be.
I love how Hype Unit's playing this right now. They are not playing scared, but they aren't forcing too much.
Well, force onto Spudio's beads there, and Spudio tries to get away, has to rewind, but where's he going to end up? Well, good news is back in a dangerous zone. Frosty in the sky, but so is Crimson. Frosty dunks in, Dimi under pressure, has to Lawbringer away, so does Breez, as now Frosty goes back in and takes the life of Crimson.
Uh-oh, now one more member, it's Inbound, who ends up getting killed as well. Spudio so low, and Flair still has it.
But now Layers could need some help, and Oboronic was trying to wrap round the back, cut off by FrostiaK for a second, but Layers will still get to Prime. Breez ambushes away, Dimi could be a target now, but he's a very healthy tier.
Oboronic just not enough damage quite yet. A little bit off the mark with that combo. 2 for 2. That favors Outcold by a hefty margin.
But it's carries though, right?
It is, but I mean, they killed 2 members, especially one in Crimson who was level 19. He again gets dunked by FrostiaK, who have found a pretty solid one. Crimson is being a little bit over-aggressive, I'd say, right now. He has to understand that he is a huge part of this lead, and a huge part of the lead in general for Hype Unit isn't so much gold, though that's solid as well. 7K is pretty massive at 21 minutes, but it's also XP, and they haven't been leveraging that quite as well, because Crimson has still been going in really early, hasn't been playing cleanup crew a whole lot. Oboronic been able to stay at a distance and keep his XP advantage intact and nice and clean. But Hype Unit's starting to lose that XP advantage just because Outcold's going to get closer to level 20, and they're going to stop gaining XP that's relevant.
They'll probably extend it a little bit again now with the Sonic Fury going down. No one really from Outcold in the area to do anything. See the player damage on the left-hand side too. It's the core of Outcold gaming. They're the bottom 3 in those charts. FrostiaK, PrettyPriMe, and Breez not really being able to get in much there. And it's really coming down to Dimi and Spudio to hold this line.
And Hype Unit needs to clean up their execution just a little bit. Prime is living too long in a lot of these fights. The Fire Giant one, he was able to dance around for a little bit too long. Right there, he stays up and ends up letting Argus do a lot of the damage that they did that Hype Unit couldn't end up handling in the end. An early runic, or late runic shield, I should say here for Layers, but still an effective one against not very much power in Prime's build right now. So that 50 power reduction will hurt him more than it would most mages at this point. And Layers is going to be on top of Hera and Chronos this game, the 2 characters he wants to deal less damage to him. He kind of double dips by getting protection from runic shield and reducing their power at the same time.
All lanes pushed out for a moment or two from Outcold, so they're just going to hold the line and wait for Hype Unit to maybe start up the Fire Giant. But instead of that, they go aggressive towards Dimi. Dimi preemptively going to use the Lawbringer early. Lost half his health off that. And I will note, Crimson has gone for Polynomicon in this Morrigan build.
Love it. Love it. That's your burst damage, man. I mean, that's what you want to do. I love his build so far. He's going to be working towards Obsidian Shard. I've got no complaints. I think Crimson's building exactly the way you should.
Don't forget the Oni-Fury minions are coming alongside this Hype Unit team. That made that tier 2 even easier. So Inbound blinks in towards Spudio, and Spudio's beads now on cooldown. Has to rewind away. Hype Unit not overextending though. It was only Bobby that went in. And the damage was done towards the Relic and Ultimate out of the carry. And now the carry's in all sorts of trouble.
Breez gonna follow him up too. Just able to escape because of Dimi's initiation, but now Prime's in trouble. Layers got him for number 18.
And FrostiaK just missed his wall and his ultimate, and there goes his life. All 5 members of Hype Unit still alive, as now Dimi with the Lawbringer up again. We'll use the up-down. It's not as impressive as an Osiris one, but it will keep him alive for now. Breez just trying to hold the line of this Phoenix, but the Phoenix will fall. Dimi blinks in, but he can't find the game-changing ability he was after. Instead, he finds a free trip back to the fountain.
Looks like Hype Unit wanted to try and end here. 20 seconds till Prime is up.
Can they go in for the end here? The health bars are relatively low. Minions with them though. Breez going to try and slow them down, trying to cut off the carries from getting in. But it's too little, too late. Hype Unit in 24.5 minutes have taken game 1 out of Outcold.
That was impressive from Hype Unit, really from minute 1. I think they drafted really well. We were a little worried about Crimson. We don't see a whole lot of Morrigan there. How is he going to do against his best ADC competition he's ever played? He plays lights out, man. He played so well. Oboronic does exactly what you expect Oboronic to do. Zeros are saying on the desk, we have to see this Merlin position well. he did exactly that. Inbound had a great game, picked good fights, and didn't overextend, which is a problem for Inbound at times. That is what Hype Unit looks like when Hype Unit is clicking on all cylinders. It's a team with a ton of potential, and Outcold just got a front row seat.
I think it's one of the reasons why we've seen so many people talk up this Hype Unit team. They may not have looked great yesterday, but they just took a game off an EU SML team with a former world champion. Let's find out if they can continue this after the break.
Well, not surprising at all that that match was competitive, but in the way that Hype Unit won it, certainly it was a bit of a surprise. 24 minutes and the game was not particularly close. Hype Unit SCL making a name for themselves here in this very first match. Still Finch here, joined by Zeros on the desk. And Zeros, man, I mean, do you agree with that assessment? I mean, it seemed pretty one-sided.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking before the game that this could be a good warm-up game for Outcold to like get hot to the rest of the tournament, but this game wasn't even close. And like Hype Unit just looked like the way better team this first game at least. Like Outcold has to really change something going into the next game.
And it's just a bunch of really small things, and it has to be at this level. There aren't any bad teams in this pool, man. Everyone here is capable of executing at such a high level, and just a couple of small plays can be off and can get away from you. I mean, some early fights don't quite go their way, Prime struggles, but this might have also been a picks and bans issue. I mean, was this Hera ever going to have room to operate up against this draft with all this dive in it? I just don't know.
It can work, but it's so hard, right? Like one misstep ever, like say they lose map pressure around mid and he tries to go in around mid and like check if they're doing gold fear, like he just dies instantly if he gets blinked on. So it's so hard. It could have worked, but it didn't. Like he had to stay alive for like maybe 10-15 minutes before dying.
And this is an example here where there's just no way out for him. oBoronic has all this AoE damage and then locked in by Inbound. The play just before this was one where Frosty had a chance for a big ult, only ends up hitting I think one there, and maybe it could have been more. And then this was the big play for me in the middle lane where they overcommit onto Inbound to start it, and then Hype Unit turned this one around huge.
Yeah, I mean, like pretty much every fight looked like that. They had some slip-ups where like Prime lived for too long. I think it was one fight that was like 2 for 2 that was kind of close. But every other fight than that, like it wasn't even that close, you know. They just had a stronger fight. I felt like it's so hard for Outcold to fight into this composition that Hype has drafted.
Yep, and a lot of it was Crimson, man. He had a really, really strong performance on the Morrigan, some great transformations. Just everyone in the game was a good target, but it was so much on the Inbound. He baits it out for them. They get Spudio's rewind out really early, and FrostiaK gets popped in this fight. I don't think they were expecting all that damage.
And here comes the Morrigan, transformed into 4 and dunks in here too, like does so much damage. I always talk against Morrigan. You should not initiate with your ultimate.
Right.
I feel like you should get your base kit off, but I think 4 is one of the few gods right now, because he has so much damage. If you land your dunk and you free off, there's so much damage. So I think that's like one of the few gods you can transform it with Morrigan and initiate with your ult.
And you could tell it means a lot here to Hype Unit. Pumped up was Inbound, the support there, after a really strong performance from him. And, you know, I went into both the player booths before this game just to talk to the team, see how they were feeling. And Outcold were feeling good, maybe like a little bit nervous because they hadn't played yet, but for the most part confident. But when I went to the Hype Unit booth, they had music blasting, the squad was relaxing and having I mean, they were comfortable and confident coming into this game, so I'm not surprised at all that they came out of the gates hot like they did here in this game. Hype Unit have kind of made this space their own, man, and they're here to play.
Yeah, look at this King Arthur damage, 20,700. I think King Arthur and this Merlin has done more damage than all of Outcold together almost. It's just like, just such a dominant performance, honestly, in the first game.
It really was, man, and I think that there's still plenty of adjustments that Outcold can make. If just one of those early fights goes their way, then FrostiaK's way more experience relevant that whole game. He was level 12 when Crimson was level 17. Prime took an early spill, too. He was the one first blooded in this game. If that Hera can get off to a better start, how much does this game change? I do think that it's just a couple small plays, but Outcold, you don't have a whole lot of time in a best of 3 to make adjustments, so they gotta come quick.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, obviously they can adjust their own drafts. Like, maybe the Hera wasn't the pick there, like with the picks that Hype has already picked. So maybe something safer for Prime would have been good. But then you also have to think about what do they want to take away from Hype? Because like this Morrigan looks so scary, right? So did the Merlin. You want to take that away. The King Arthur looks scary. The Cabrakan looks like everything that Hype had in the draft looked really scary. So like, what do you take away?
And that is the hard part against this team. And remember, I was talking about in picks and bans that this Cabrakan pick was guaranteed going to Layers. And that's one other thing they can do really well. They have a ton of picks that can flex between Oboronic and Crimson, between Layers and Inbound. They'll both play the Erlang Shen. You know, Oboronic and Crimson will both play the Merlin. And it makes it so difficult in picks and bans to know where these picks are going and what the best way to prepare against them is. They're such a versatile squad that Outcold have got to be able to kind of focus up in the drafting phase and not let that throw them off.
Yeah, for sure. If I'm Outcold, I wouldn't worry too much about the Cabrakan. I would just make sure to not draft into it, right?
Right.
I think that's the thing, because like I'm pretty sure they can't ban away the Cabrakan.
No.
I think the Merlin, Morrigan, way higher prioritized, and then obviously you have all the OP picks already. Like you have the Isis and the Persephone. You probably have to get rid of that as well. Then again, Outcold lost, so they have the choice of sides here, right?
Exactly.
So I would assume they go first pick. So we'll see.
And how important is the 3v3 going well nowadays? Because FrostiPriMe and Breez struggled in this game, and Dimi and Spudio were kind of the only ones keeping it close. Spudio had some great rotation on the Chronos, and Dimi was able to play some cleanup squad for them in a couple of those fights too. How important is it having your 3v3 going well nowadays?
I mean, it is super important. And then last game, it comes down to the Hera, right? It's like for Hype Unit, it's so easy to know how to fight the 3-on-3. Cabrakan, you just blink out the Hera and we win. That's pretty much it, right? Merlin.
That's how they won, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
They had that great call to not even go for the Fire Giant. They push all the way down that right-hand side. Inbound, all in commits, gets everything out from Spudio on the Chronos. They back up, and then they just do it again.
Yeah.
And then there was no way for them to respond to without the relics or the rewind available for them. So Hype Unit saw where their opportunity was, and they jumped right through.
Yeah, I have to talk about that a little more though. Like, super impressive to end the game without even getting fire first, right? They decide to siege without even having fire. They win the fight. They kill all of them and kill the Titan as well. So like, super impressive by a Hype Unit.
Clearly a confident team that's not afraid to make risky calls, but Outcold, still a tall task ahead of Hype Unit to get 2-0 over Outcold. This team has been improving all of Season 6. It's all been culminating here. Now remember, neither one of these teams are out with a loss here. They'll both drop down to the lower brackets, but it's so much easier if you can stay up in that winner's bracket. Even if you do drop down later on, you avoid, I think, 2 sets by doing that. You just want to try and stay up there as long as possible.
Yeah. This is interesting. Now, Merlin and Morrigan both open. They didn't really ban anything that Hype Unit played last game. They also choose second pick, which is kind of weird to me. Now they have to deal with this Morrigan again.
They have to worry about Crimson on this if it is him, but Outcold have a lot of chances to respond pick. Thor can come out for FrostiaK here again. Tyr can come out for Dimi. Yet again, they can top pick Chronos if they want to prioritize it, but instead the Amaterasu.
That's a big one. That's also always been a Dimi pick, I feel like. I feel like Tyr and Amaterasu was like, there was a point in SMITE where everyone will play early pressure warriors, and Dimi will be like pretty much the only one playing late game warriors, and like he made it through the laning phase and had so much impact in team fights, and he's going back to those picks now, and I like to see that.
Well, that's how he got that reputation as being one of the best at losing lane, right, for a while there, and that's because sometimes Dimi does play for the late game. They won't come over there and gank for him a lot, and you know that you can trust Dimi in the 1v1 to maintain relevance and then have a sick late game, and Amaterasu just one of the best at doing it, if not the best. But what a response here from Hype Unit. Erlang Shen for Layers, one of his priority picks right now, and the Jormungandr for Wolves over in the solo lane.
Yeah, kind of surprised to not see the Merlin pick come out here instead of the Erlang or the Jorm.
Sure.
Those carries did so much work last game, right?
You could probably pick Erlang at any point, right? Later on, it's probably not going to get banned, I'd imagine. So
yeah, I wouldn't assume so. And like, even Jorm, I don't know if you need to play Jorm against Amy in solo either. Like, Jorm always a good pick, right? But I'm sure he could have picked something else. And now Outcold gets the Merlin instead.
Instead, they give a strong pick over to Outcold. That will be in the hands of Prime or Spudio. I think more likely to be Prime, but Spudio certainly can play those mages over in the long lane if need be. And now we move on to the ban phase, and Outcold have some great rotational ability, some great team fight presence already with this Amaterasu, Thor, and Merlin. They just can't allow these carries from Hype Unit to be too strong on the back end of this next draft phase. One more carry, and then likely a support for Inbound, unless they pull another flip around and give the Erlang Shen to him.
He's been loving his early game support, so I wouldn't be surprised to see Inbound on the Erlang for sure. Just interested in what Hype is gonna play mid there. I don't think we've seen him play Hunter mid yet, but that was on the console games yesterday.
Right.
Now they're on PC. Maybe it's more confident playing Hunter's mid on a mouse and keyboard. So.
Yeah, and if you're not as familiar with this Hype Unit team, oBoronic and Crimson are both top-tier mid laners, truly, kind of like at their core. They can both play Hunters for sure, but I'm not surprised that they have kind of leaned on that double mage carry because it plays into their two strengths. We really might not see a whole lot of Hunters from them, especially because the meta really does kind of allow you to play those mages pretty well, as Serqet comes in for Outcold again.
Yeah, they didn't love the Serqet last game. I guess they couldn't really fight in the 3-on-3, so I suppose like the Serqet became kind of invisible because of that reason maybe. But still, I don't know, man. But not loving the Serqet pick so far.
It's not going to be... Zeus being hovered? This can't come in at this point, right? And the Khepri, so maybe that is going to be the play. I mean, Khepri will keep that Zeus alive despite all this dive. I mean, Amaterasu, Thor, and Serqet, they all kind of can make mincemeat of Zeus.
Please don't tell me that this is going to come back into the meta.
Zeus being played again.
Zeus,
How come you don't
Khepri.
want to see more Zeus, huh, man? We love Zeus.
To be fair, though, I think Zeus right now, he's like... Khepri is the perfect pick with him, because you need backline playing with the Zeus, or like if you leave him alone, he's useless. Khepri, the perfect pick for that. Not an execute on Outcold so far as well, so that's good. But I feel like Apuk and Kukulkan kind of does the same as Zeus right now.
That's a great
I feel
point,
like. And I also feel like both of these are probably better than Zeus, but then again, Zeus still has a lot of damage. Even though his detonate is a bit delayed now, he still does a lot of damage.
Yeah, it's 2 games in a row where you've had all 4 damage dealers as magic, all 4 carries are magic damage dealers, and still no Kukulkan has come through just yet. I'm a bit surprised you haven't seen it more prioritized. And likely does just do a lot of what Zeus does even better. But with this Khepri, you kind of heard it from me instantly how I felt about it. Oh no, don't lock in this Zeus, but then I saw Khepri and I go, okay, well that's not so bad. As long as they get really good play from Inbound around that Scarab's Blessing, this Zeus can certainly farm.
Yeah, sure, but it's kind of weird come from Hype, because like Morrigan and his Erlang jungle and Jorm solo, all them 3 wanna dive the enemy backline, right? And then you have Zeus and Khepri, they are not diving.
No.
So like, I don't think a Zeus and Khepri alone, like 2v3 against the enemy backline is gonna be able to survive, even with the Khepri out. But we'll see. I feel like this draft wanna do dive and they wanna like protect the Zeus kind of thing, you know. So I feel like it's kind of weird. We'll see if they make it work.
Yeah, I wonder if the idea is to have this Morrigan be more setup play for them, or some other peel. But besides, if Outcold really drafted someone who's a peel specialist over there either. I mean, yes, they've got some CC, but none of it you think of like a Gab or a Khepri or anything like that. So this Zeus really is going to be a bit isolated.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll just trust him to get his damage off and let it go. I imagine they'll give this Zeus to oBoronic and let Crimson try and repeat the performance on the Morrigan that we saw from game number 1. But which team are you leaning to just based on the drafts here, even if you didn't have to look at the players?
I think it have to be Outcold. I like the Chronos Merlin. I talked about it so much. Spear of Magus combined with Demonic Grip, just so good, like in all parts of the game. So those 2 carries just so strong, and they have the Serqet and Amaterasu 4 as well. Just a solid draft. I like hype units as well, but as I said, it's kind of weird comp where they want to protect Zeus and they also want to dive. So
it does feel as though theirs is going to require a good deal of execution in order to get it to actually work, whereas Outcold won't have nearly that high of a bar, I feel like, to reach. So for just saying in terms of who's more likely to have it work out for them, I got to agree with you, man. I feel like Outcold are in a really good spot, and they need this bounce back game. I think it's going to be tough trying to play through the lower bracket if you lost a console early on. So this match has huge implications as you get ready for game 2.
Thanks so much, analysts on the desk. Yes, game 2 is about to begin. Hype Unit up 1-0 here over Outcold Gaming, when everyone thought at the start of the day is probably going to go the other way around based off performances yesterday.
And who could blame them? Hype Unit certainly did not look like they were on their A game yesterday. They ate their Wheaties this morning, though, man. They looked great in game 1. Outcold did not. I think that those 2 in combination with one another produced the blowout. Otherwise, I do expect a closer Game 2 and potential Game 3. Not saying that Outcold's guaranteed to win, but I expect them to play better than they just did.
Well, you saw Zeros and Finch talking on the desk about how much focus could be on Oboronic from this Outcold Div and how much he might get focused in these team fights. I think that could play into a hype unit strategy, though, because they do have a Morrigan, which is technically a Zeus as well.
And a second Khepri,
yeah,
if you need it for the one Zeus.
Hang on, 2 Khepris or no,
that's what I'm talking about, baby. That's what I want. Look, obviously, I'm a big Zeus fan. However, picking him against Thor Ama, he's crazy, bro. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I would not be feeling confident picking it into that composition.
Well, let's see how Breez does against Inbound here. Inbound just focusing intently on trying to get damage off, and he used the Abduct to steal it away from Breez, who did all the work of getting the buff. So Inbound wins the trade of Khepri versus Serqet in the jungle at level 1. Assassin's Blessing could have helped him, though.
It could have.
If he would have gone for it.
He would have almost certainly secured it.
I mean, he didn't go Bless him last game, so maybe, yeah.
But that's still 700 gold he has to spend. Did they get it again?
Yep.
Okay, no, Dimi got that one. I was going to say, that'd be pretty crazy. Look, Breez has played exceptionally well so far this year. I think he's been a huge bright spot for this team.
Agreed.
He has looked like a real member, not just a late addition or anything like that. He's played at this level very, very well.
FrostiaK.
Ooh, he's got no
bit of
beats.
pressure here. Inbound waited so patiently for the Abduct there, but he will immediately hammer away after the fact. Oboronic and Layers just weren't able to follow up.
Probably could have been a kill if Hype Unit played that a little bit more cleanly. Inbound should potentially just be waiting on Abduct until the hammer comes out and tries to react to that. That guarantees first blood.
Blink again from Bobby as he goes in on Breez, but Breez will slip away. Don't forget, Abduct is a great silent CC ability, but it does scale up in terms of duration as you put points in it. So a level 1 version won't last very long.
No, and Boronic's using Chain Lightning when there's no bounce target, so it's not really going to provide a whole lot of extra damage. He's only level 2, doesn't have Detonate yet. Those are not going to be your top-tier damage options at this point in the game. You need to hit level 3, level 4 until you start to see Zeus really put out those damage numbers. But overall, I feel like Hype Unit's draft is really dependent on how well can Inbound play and how well can Oboronic play.
You did mention Breez, and I do want to go back to that subject of how MOBA does transfer from one to another. Like the mechanics of MOBA and the understanding of the chess battle that is a MOBA board, so to speak, how it plays out is very similar across multiple MOBAs.
Sure, in a former world champion in Heroes of the Storm, definitely a different game in terms of MOBAs even, but Breez has really, really taken to SMITE very well, been very impressed with a lot of his decision-making and mechanics. But I will say, despite all of that well-deserved praise, his invade success percentage is abysmal.
Breez really in trouble here, won't get away. Really nice knock-up from Layers for first blood, in all honesty there. That turtle form just kept him inside the icicles.
And we talked about no blessing for Breez, but no blessing for Layers either. He starts off with boots 2, ends up rushing the Talaria right away, and that extra bit of power and mobility certainly contributes to that first blood.
Yeah, now FrostiaK going to look for the aggression, strip away the blue buff on the right-hand side. Hype Unit opened that first blood, and he went to Layers as well. More importantly, who's currently down on farm.
He's dead.
As FrostiaK is going to find him getting greedy in his own half of the jungle, and now be able to take away the Harpies too. Wolves and Inbound can really only just watch on as FrostiaK has got himself going this game.
So, no blessing contributes to first blood because I'm more powerful, I've got more movement speed, I can just do more damage. And then it also contributes to Outcold getting a return kill because I've got no sustain on these jungle camps. I don't clear them particularly quickly, and FrostiaK can walk up slowly and spin on me for an easy kill. Now he goes for the Assassin's Blessing a little bit later on. This start can work. I think Layers probably okay with the way that this has started off for him. Getting first blood so important that even falling right afterwards and being a little bit down in XP per minute by actually a bigger margin than I thought. He's down about 150 XP per minute right now. That is concerning. I thought it was closer than that. Now that does make me a little bit worried. Ravana comes over and shares this speed when Layers is already really far behind. I mean, FrostiaK just hit level 5,
but
whereas
Zeus.
Layers is still a full level down.
You want Zeus as much farm as possible though, right?
At some level, but think of all the metas where Zeus has been really good. It's where mid doesn't get a lot of farm.
Blink from Inbound, and the old jump straight away from Oboronic, who hit level 5. Layers blinks in, and will claim another life onto Breez. 2 kills for Layers then after his tumble earlier on. has now answered back again, and I guess that's one of the reasons why they gave him that XP.
That works for me. I mean, he hits level 5, ends up getting kills because of it. Maybe it should be Chain Lightning first there off the bounce, because you're not going to guarantee a whole lot of ticks of the ultimate anyways. Is Oboronic leveling the Chain Lightning or the Detonate? Because you can do either one. Detonate a little bit more conventional wisdom, and I think that's totally fine here. I think that most of the time when you're playing Zeus, you want to level up Detonate first, and then it's a matter of, am I putting points in my ult or my one whenever I get the opportunity? It depends really on how many times you'll be able to guarantee multiple ticks of the ult, and you might be able to in this comp.
Dimi quite far forward with Breez in backup here as they look to invade this blue buff, but Layers is here and Inbound too. Breez blinks in, gets some kisses on. In the sky is FrostiaK and he'll land onto Layers. The ultimate was used, but it won't keep him alive, and now Wolves surrounded and has to get underground quick.
Oronic's gonna have some damage here, a little bit of Chain Lightning onto Dimi, but cooldown boots means the Warrior base stats are enough to make sure Dimi's safe. Good aggression by Outcold, understanding that Inbound's only level 4 at the time. If he's level 5, that whole fight goes very differently, because that was a big root from Inbound. Layers was about to receive a heal. If he's got Scarab's Blessing there, that fight may not have gone well for Outcold at all.
What are the odds, though, that Dimi comes back towards professional play again, slowly but surely, right? And then Tyr comes in the meta, and then Amma. And you're like, wait a second,
yeah,
this
hold
is
on.
Dimi.
Actually, that's a conspiracy theory in the making right there, Graham.
We don't do conspiracy theories here, what?
What do you mean?
We're all about equal opportunities.
Isn't the script a conspiracy theory in and of itself?
That's not a conspiracy at all. It's just a standard thing of everyday life. It has to be scripted, otherwise no one would know who'd win.
Isn't that the point? That no one knows who wins?
Well, we're going to know the end, right?
No. Okay, never mind. It's fine. Either way, it is a happy coincidence, it feels like, that a lot of Dimi's gods come back right on time. And what do you know? Outcold Gaming goes from a team that was unimpressive at the minor league level to very good.
He just needs a lot of help, and we'll get some from Oboronic.
Oh, he got some, all right.
He got the kill onto Breez, and now FrostiaK will fall down for a double kill. The way of the Zeus. Prime trying to punish, though, but Inbound still had his ultimate available, and that just baits Prime to have to use his beads to escape the clutches. 4-2. Hype unit claim another 2 lives.
Yeah, you were asking for help. How's a Blink Abduct into a Lightning Storm, into Chain Lightning, into Detonate? That seems like pretty good help to me. Layers just able to survive and just a little bit short in the damage department now for Outcold. And that lead that was there for FrostiaK starting to slip away, now only up about 70 XP per minute. And that's still relevant. He'll still be up about a half a level, but probably not for long. It's getting closer now.
Wolves trying to defend his own blue buff on this right-hand side. FrostiaK is on the rotation, but the Wards did spot him out. He may not even be needed, though, as the blue buff will be stripped away by Dimi as he heads back to lane here. Frosty rotating towards mid. But once again, the ward coverage from Hype Unit, I saw it in Game 1. And in Game 2, it's the same sort of situation. They have full vision of any aggression coming their way.
Layers taunted once again. By the way, just got word from production that he lived at... Oh, hello. FrostiaK dunks in, finds a bunch.
Less good knock-up from Layers, and that sets up Oboronic for a kill. Crimson rotated in, didn't do much apart from show off his Thor skills, which were about the same level as FrostiaK's Game 1, but never mind. He'll slip back towards mid. Inbound falls, but so does FrostiaK.
Oboronic in a little bit of trouble. Breez gonna blink in. Oboronic dies to the Deathbane. Layers was trying to get something going, but now he will fall too.
Fully under pressure, really good ultimate from Breez, and Breez read that situation so well.
Yep.
His carry gets blinked on, so instead of trying to defend his carry, he goes aggressive towards the other one and makes it a 1-for-1. Actually, cancelled up 2-for-0.
That's beautiful by Outcold, and in particular Breez, who looks very comfortable once again on this Serqet. Still, the scoreline isn't exactly what you'd want at this point, but he's been playing aggressively, and that is something that, I mean, this is his first SMITE LAN.
It is.
He's a world champion in HOTS, so you know he's got some LAN pedigree, but that's the game he's probably still more comfortable with. You know, you're not in your element necessarily, and so to see him really get dominated Game 1, as did the rest of his team, and then turn around and still have that same mentality coming into Game 2. No surprise to me that this dude's a champ.
Always tricky when you don't share experience either for free. I mean, you do as a support to an extent, but you don't share it completely for fair. 5-5 as the Oracles will go the way of Outcold Gaming on his left-hand side. And you did mention it was 1 HP earlier on, correct?
Yeah, that's right. Layers literal 1 HP whenever on that right side mid-heartbeat fight.
Not even
Inbound
close.
a little bit late on that ultimate, it felt like, but that's because he knew the Layers are going to live at 1 HP. So that's just big brain by Bobby, as per usual.
All he needed was one. Frosty trying to get Wolves out of the ground, and Wolves will come out exactly when he wants to. Throws out the spit, but has to be careful. More than anything, he was trying to proxy farm some waves where possible. As now Layers is going to secure the blue buff on this left-hand side. Layers still a little bit behind in experience at the moment, but he is sharing a hell of a lot more with the rest of his team.
He is, and a lot of the discrepancy also comes from that blue buff. This is the first one Wolves has gotten in a long, long time. And I like Hype-Unit understanding that we cannot afford to just give up blue after blue after blue. And Wolves is doing fine in this lane. It's that we don't want Dimi to be this unkillable, massive solo laner coming out and killing our Zeus. That is the worst matchup for Zeus that's on the map right now.
Speaking of Zeus, he's gone for the Dumo build here. Now, once upon a time, a little earlier this year, it was very much about the Rod of Tahuti as the first major item. Is really Dumo catapulted itself that far ahead now for Zeus too?
Yeah, it's just that extra mobility is so good on him. I mean, he really needs that extra little bit of mobility. He's so vulnerable otherwise. Look, he's still vulnerable even with it, but it does cover up a major weakness of the character. And it's a smoother curve. Your restored artifact, only 50 power. You don't get any passive with it. It's just power and MP5.
Layers under pressure here with Breez right around the corner. It's a good Khepri ultimate coming through, but the poison will persist and prevent any healing. There's just no further follow-up damage available as oBoronic. The wall will cut off the angle of escape, but the damage just isn't there.
Good job by Inbound. You trade support alt for support alt. Both teams probably saying, oh, that's worth it. You know, now we don't have to worry about Serqet alt, or now we don't have to worry about Khepri alt. But it's pretty much a wash either way. It did cost Inbound his blink. Looks like he blinked in range in order to get there for that save, which is really crazy. Great forethought by Inbound. So at that degree, if Outcold know that, which I doubt they do, then that is a win for Outcold.
At the moment, it's continuing to farm up Inbound, going to place a ward over the wall of that red buff, keeping the vision going. Crimson Spudio, we haven't really spoken about so far this game. Same sort of characters as game number 1 for them. Identical, in fact, and very similar builds.
Same thing. No reason to change it from what game 1 had. I mean, Spudio, by the time he joined a lot of these fights in mid, the mid 3v3 for Hype-Unit was so far ahead that it was pretty hard for him to make an impact. Feels like this pace of the game favors Outcold a whole lot more. Hype-Unit is known for their ability to turn on the gas and really hit it early on. This is the type of game that favors Outcold. Just a more experienced team at a high level, though actually I don't even know if that's very fair to say. Breez, new to the game, certainly not used to this level of SMITE play. And Hype-Unit are back-to-back console world champions. They've played on LAN an awful lot.
There's a lot of skill between everybody in this one, to be fair. I think it evens out with when you look at people that missed a LAN or made a LAN versus the other team on the other side here. Saw a lot of pings earlier on as well. A lot of rotation focus towards where Crimson is. He got spotted towards mid lane there. May have been looking for a bit of a play Hype-Unit, but it's Outcold with a bit of vision control around the Gold Fury. Frosty going to ult very early for that satellite vision to make sure no one's around, and Hype-Unit got caught with the pants down there.
A little bit of bad back timing overall. Layers decides to head to the right side of the map. Good identification by Outcold. They've got good ward vision as well. Not great aggressive ward vision, but good defensive ward vision.
Is that based off the blue invade so much, though, that there's put that pressure there for Layers to be on that side?
Definitely. He probably feels a little bit more of a draw over there. Wolves is a little bit behind, so you want to make sure that he's nice and safe. oBoronic was on back harpies as Crimson had backed. I don't know that Outcold had all of that information, but they had enough to know that that was a good, at least you poke the Gold Fury, you see if anyone comes over. Plus you have a big power spike with Prime just getting Spear of the Magus, so he's going to shred those prots on that objective and make sure that Spudio's doing a whole lot of damage. That was a well-timed Gold Fury pull by Outcold.
Definitely one of the combinations that you get with this Merlin and the Chronos in the same team. That objective secure shred is very, very quick. Speedy, in fact, and can surprise a lot of teams. They may not have the secure of other gods that are available in SMITE, but they will have a damn good lot of damage.
Nice little juking around by Wolves, spins Dimi around, but just the typical solo lane of fun. Bede's pickup for Wolves is interesting, but I like it. There's a lot of range CC and guaranteed CC that he has to worry about. This is a composition where he could easily get blinked on and killed by Breez or FrostiaK or Dimi, so you want to make sure that doesn't happen as often as possible. Breez is really far ahead. I mean, this is the same thing that was happening to Prime in the last game where his opposition was getting really far ahead. Breez level 11 to Layers level 10.
Yeah.
Outcold should be willing to take just about any fight that Breez is there for.
And I think that's why they're going to stop the Pyromancer now, trying to push this lead even more so. Inbound trying to make it belly on Spudio, who is rotating towards mid. Spudio getting focused on by 4 members, but all the while, Outcold will get the Pyro. Spudio's rewind on cooldown. He will end up falling down in trade for a Pyromancer. Wolves trying to answer back and get a kill on Breez, but that might be a bit more awkward than he bargained for.
Yeah, he's dead to that dot damage. I was going to say Beads or Aegis is usually pretty good there. Beads makes sense because the CC chain, but you have to make sure you're ulting awfully early because there's just a lot of dot damage on Outcold between that last breath and the fire damage from PrettyPriMe. And Wolves, I mean, if he just delays Pyro a little bit like he did, harass them a little bit like he did, and then ults out as Hype Unit get that kill on the left-hand side, that's a really good sequence for Hype Unit. The fact that Wolves gets traded out means that they really don't gain a whole lot at all.
I know Hype Unit actually did try and respond a little bit by taking some of that tier 1 tower down. It is really on its last legs on the left-hand side, so not really a defensive position there for Outcold to really hold or defend if they get aggressed on. Just keep an eye on anyone falling into that trap, as Purple will go the way of PrettyPriMe as he drops that down the left-hand side. He rotated over to make sure that tower stays up. oBoronic, meanwhile, level 13, a little bit behind PrettyPriMe at this moment in time.
Prime's been able to farm up much more safely. I like the way that Prime built here, too. He goes to the Cursed Orb, the Tier 2 of Doom Orb, and then leaves it there for a little bit, understanding that Spirit of the Magus is such a big power spike for Merlin in particular, and because you have another big magical damage dealer in the Chronos, you kind of get a bite and a half on that. It's that much better because another character on your team is really leveraging it. And then we go back and finish the Doom Orb because it's so good and so worth that gold from the Tier 2 to the Tier 3 version. I think that is very smart and works really, really well.
Got two different builds coming out of the junglers as well this game. Layers on this Erlang Shen going for a very auto-attack-based build here, with the mainly focus towards Toxic Blade for anti-heal, which there's not a whole lot of healing. If anything, it's good attack speed and pen, however. But then again, look at what FrostiaK went for. He went for the Jotuns before the Transcendence. Yeah, a lot of cooldown in this, but the power spikes are a bit off.
A little bit. It means that he's going to take some time to stack this Transcendence, but Trans is such a big power spike right as you finish it. It's not like your Book of Thoths these days where it really is important to finish that as soon as possible. I'm fine with this build. It lets you start Mace 1, which is a little bit better. Mace 2 is really, really good because it has flat pen on it right away. We see this path out of junglers a decent amount, and I think it's completely acceptable.
I think I'm more concerned that both these junglers are going to be very squishy. They're going to be relying on base stats a hell of a lot this game, and against these big bursting mages we've got, could cause them a problem. Bit of a problem for Outcold here as Hype Unit invade the red buff successfully. Wolves rotating around as Crimson took a ton of damage, but he stealthed away. FrostiaK tried to read it, couldn't get there in time. As Bobby's a little bit far forward, and I think he went to ult himself, but accidentally caught Wolves. And not like that, it's going to cost oBoronic his life. As Hype Unit over-aggress for a red buff there, and it comes up costing him at least 2 lives.
It's just an odd fight to say, okay, we're definitely invading this buff right here. If it's defending, I understand, but there was no real advantage that Hype Unit had on that red buff invade. They just decided to be a little bit stubborn and go for it, which at some point you have to be, right? Yeah. You have to say, hey, we're losing. At this pace, we are going to lose the game. Let's be aggressive.
But there's timing.
But timing on your enemy side of the map is not the place to be.
I mean, they lose a Tier 1 mid, Tier 1 left, and the Primal Fury, all based off that red buff invade. Grand scheme of things, red buffs are great to invade, sure, strip it away, it's free farm, but to lose all that doesn't work out. Not only that, you lost lives too.
And Wolves has been completely neutralized in this game. Those early blue buff invades took him out pretty effectively, and Dimi's rotations have all been really solid. He's level 18 on this Ama, a 4-level lead for him over oBoronic. I mean, how does oBoronic ever survive that Ama ult at this point in the game? I mean, Crimson's been able to stay good, stay healthy and farm. Level 18, he's kept pace with Spudio, but look at where he is in the player damage charts. He's below Inbound.
He needs to be a little bit careful here. Will have to beat away the stun that Spudio sent after him. He's got no Tier 1 tower. Frosty ulted early towards oBoronic in mid lane at the same time, and the rotation towards his right side has given FrostiaK a free chance to take out oBoronic. Wolves, meanwhile, will still fall down to Breez, and now Layers and Inbound have to limp their way back to the Tier 2 tower.
I thought oBoronic had both the relics up. Looks like he used both and still died to FrostiaK's damage. Yeah, that's Thor versus Zeus, by the way. That can happen.
And Frosty didn't even use a relic in that engagement, clearly. Tier 2 tower falls on the right-hand side, then Outcold extend their lead even more so. Fall back towards the Fire Giant, Pyro spawning soon. There's only 3 members of Hype Unit that can try and contest this.
I don't even know if they'll be able to. I mean, Crimson's actually transformed into oBoronic. He looks like he misclicked, was looking for the Thor, and so he can't try and dunk in. Outcold get the fire.
Fire Giant for all 5 members of Outcold, then pre-20 minutes. This is looking good for Outcold fans with how this one's been played out. Where did it go wrong? It started to go wrong before that red buff invade, but the red buff is like the pièce de résistance in this case.
Exactly. It was the bad back timing by Crimson and where Oboronic was and where Layers was, where Outcold get that first Gold Fury. But it was really all centered around these blue buff invades, because that's what forces or makes Layers make that choice to head over to the right-hand side to try and get some blue buff invades for hype units, to try and get them back in the game and get Wolves in particular back into the game. I mean, he's top of the player damage charts, but it's all been ineffective player damage so far. Layers, I mean, had a couple good fights in the mid lane early on, but then got that 2 for 0 in mid lane after the team fight where they 1 for 1 or 2 for 2, and then Outcold get the 2 for 0 in mid.
Yeah.
That also really stopped the momentum for hype unit.
And now Hype Unit just going to have to give up some towers here. Not feeling comfortable about trying to defend this tier 2 tower in mid. Left-hand one will soon follow. And then it's on to the Phoenix line. And not the easiest defense out of him here on the Phoenix line, because there is a Thor involved in this one. And Thor is very good at just splitting apart the opponents a little bit.
I just feel like the draft from Hype Unit is a little bit wonky for me. I mean, the Khepri for Inbound, we saw the Geb yesterday. Clearly does much better on the aggressive supports. He's played the Khepri fairly aggressively, which is fine, but it just hasn't worked.
And this guy goes to the back, looks for a pick on Oboronic, but Crimson was lurking. And we'll get the Aegis and beads, and Oboronic drops the shield and says good night. The problem is that the Phoenix did fall. Dimi forced to ult the backline onto Oboronic as the rest of Outcold tried to fall back. They have lost FrostiaK, but other than that, they should be okay. As Wolves just backed for a second there towards his team, I thought Outcold might give chase. They've changed their mind, though, happy with the result.
Crimson has changed into Zeus 2 times in a row now. I really feel like the one in mid, while Outcold was on fire, was a misclick from him. But right there, the transformations aren't quite as good, but there is one really good one, and it's Amaterasu. Use that one. I mean, that ultimate, you're level 20, it does 1,000 base damage, by the way. And you get to be level 20. I mean, you've got all these items underneath your belt. I don't know. I feel like the fact that we haven't seen one Ama transformation is kind of mind-boggling.
It's not a bad idea either. We think about the Emerald for Emerald. If Dimi starts it first and then you go back in with it yourself, his is going to wear off earlier, so he will end up getting stunned potentially. 10-7, Outcold Gaming in the driving seat in Game 2 here. Very comfortable lead at this point as well. 12,000 gold. And at 21 minutes in, that gold is really important. You can see the difference in the amount of items that both teams have.
Outcold has been really, really good about being systematic in where they're going. They're moving as a unit. They aren't wasting time. They aren't hesitating at all. And they've been able to get a whole lot off the back of this Fire Giant power play so far. 2 towers, 10,000 XP.
Breez gets aggressive on Inbound. Inbound gets silenced and knocks up in the sky. Gets his ult on himself. Frosty to the sky. But he focuses on Crimson on the right-hand side. Layers survives. Inbound will not, however. Wolves tries to zone away, but FrostiaK catching Crimson is a very big problem.
That's huge. 2 for nothing for Outcold. It costs them every ultimate they've got. But that's still worth it. They've still got Fire Giant for about 30 seconds. Spudio won't need that much time on the Phoenix if he can come in cleanly.
The duo lane has died, and the only ultimate available is Wolves, and he's going to lurk away from Breez, who tanked up a couple of shots. Phoenix now going to chip away as Oboronic has to stay so deep. He gets the chain lightning off, but it won't be enough to stop Outcold getting a Phoenix. And now Outcold going to turn their attention to the final Phoenix on this right-hand side.
This one's a little bit worrying because Fire Giant's falling off in just a minute, but yeah, Chronos damage is pretty good, it turns out. Outcold will wipe the base clean and now can go back, get their second Fire Giant, and look to force Game 3.
And now I guess it's up to Hype Unit to either work out what they're going to do for next game, because almost at this point, it's very tricky to get back into this one, especially with the sort of gods that Outcold have. The mobility of this team just charging in with fire minions could be enough to break the game.
The gold differential really tells a story. Look at the power play graphic in the top left side of your screen. 6,000 gold that Outcold got in a plus margin. That's not gold that they earned throughout that Fire Giant period. That is extra gold over what Hype Unit earned. The gold lead was already really big. It was already near 10K. But to take it from that point up to 13K and get all the Phoenixes at the same time.
How about an Oni Fury, though? I mean, that'll help out the minions a little bit, right? They need some help at this point.
Fire Oni waves, and Layers level 17. Can he even clear those? I don't know that he can.
I'd like to see Bobby try and defend one right now, to be fair.
It would take 3 to 4 rotations of his skills, I think, to kill them. It is bad.
You're saying he's got a chance?
If he had roughly a minute, he could get it done.
12-7 then on the scoreboard. Second Fire Giant now spawning. It's not an enhanced Fire Giant just yet, as it's still pre-30 minutes, but that just shows how quick these 2 games have been so far. Hype Unit took it down in less than 30 game 1. Outcold are returning the favor in game 2 here.
It's been dominant from both sides. Both games have really not been close so far, so I expect game 3 to be a little bit more measured, slow. That's how these usually go, right? Games 1 and 2, 25-minute blowouts. Game 3, almost guaranteed for 43 minutes or more.
And here we go, the charge down mid. You saw Hype Unit trying to push out left-hand side at the very least and slow down this Phoenix being taken out cold. Don't really care though, they're just going to march on over here. Dimi can tank this up for half a year if required and now be able to take it down. When Spudio arrives, Frosty going to pressure onto mid lane. Right-hand fire minions on the way through there. Only fire minions, remember, blinking from Layers, the last-ditch attempt on a Hype Unit.
He's almost dead already. Inbound goes in as well, but he gets crushed. No ultimate for him. FrostiaK going to pick up 2 underneath the Phoenix, and Outcold forces game 3.
And the Europeans finally wake up after game 1 to bounce back and show one of the reasons why they're here today. We're in for a good one in this 3rd game, because this could go either way.
Who knows, man? I mean, neither game has been close so far. Hype Unit, I think, has to do a little bit more work in the draft, get us something a little bit more akin to what they're used to. You know, I've got some love for Zeus. I don't think he's particularly good in the meta right now. I think the big thing if you're Hype Unit is focus on what is going to make Wolves comfortable on that right-hand side. The Jorm was completely ineffective that game, and that's credit to Outcold. That's what their whole game plan was that time. Just feed Dimi on that right-hand side, and we can transition the lead later on. They didn't have to wait that long for the lead to come over because it felt like Outcold took a couple bad fights that they shouldn't have and gifted one over.
Yeah, all that pressure for Dimi's side with the blue buff invades consistently. It ended up just bringing a couple more members of Hype Unit over. Once that first Gold Fury went down because of that, it just started to continue like a domino effect.
Exactly. That fight in mid where oBoronic and Layers get 2 for 0, that one really bad at the same time. I mean, Hype Unit, I like their aggressive nature. They've got to stick to it. That's the big thing. Don't get scared off of it because you just lost this game.
Remember, this is only day 1 of placements and game 1 of placements. We've got a long week ahead of us and some great teams to watch. 1-1 then, after the break, we'll find out who advances in the upper bracket.
Well, there's the Outcold that we had gotten to know over the entirety of the SML in Europe in particular, looking much more like the 5 players that we'd gotten used to. Finch still here, I got Zeros with me on the desk. And that's a big bounce back game, man, because Hype Unit brought it to them in game number 1. But you could say the same thing in equal measure in the other direction in game number 2. Outcold were basically in control of that game the whole time. A dominant response there from them.
Yeah, for sure. And as I said before the game, Hype Unit's draft kind of weird. It did look good in the early game, though. This Zeus had some huge fights around the mid camps where he got like big, so much damage off, and it looked kind of good then. But I feel like after that, like you have the Khepri Zeus backline, and then everyone else wanna dive. It's just kind of weird, you know. Like the team doesn't really play together too well.
And one of the central questions I thought from this game was, who did Crimson pick as his target for the Morrigan when he transformed? And more times than not, it looked like he was relying on this Zeus transformation. He was turning into oBoronic to see if he can get even more Zeus damage off. And I just don't know if that's the right call. I mean, Dimi was the one that was really far ahead. You heard Ryan talk about on the desk that Amaterasu transformation could have been sick, a Serqet transformation. Talk to me a little bit about how you're picking who to pick here and what you thought about this game.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird, right? I think with Morrigan, you can have so different so many different playstyles, and like me personally, I never play like the backline Morrigan. I don't see like, but that's what he wanted to do this game. He just wanna like use his Morrigan abilities on a tank and transform into Zeus and kill the tanks, I guess. But for me, Morrigan has always been like, you kind of have the jungle role, you know, where you. But you have a free initiation because you have stealth, obviously.
Right.
You initiate on the backline and transform into Amaterasu, as Agro said. That would have been a perfect transformation to start off a fight.
Well, Layers got off to a good start here in this game on the Erlang Shen. Was indeed able to find first blood, but FrostiaK performed so much better here in Game 2 than I felt like he did in Game 1. It's that variance I was talking about before, where this time he really helped be that engine for Outcold. And you kind of have to do that as the jungle. You have to be that pace setter, the one that's initiating for the team, not always initiating, but the one that's setting up your team to succeed. And that's what Frosty was able to do this time.
Yeah, for sure. Here's what we're talking about the Zeus, like so much damage still, even after the nerfs. Like, if he can get to these moments where he can come in like that and just blow all his abilities down, like he just kills people so fast.
It's the opportunity that they were looking for all game, but they rarely were able to get those opportunities. They were under a lot of duress this game. This is one where Wolves holds the ultimate for way too long, around the 14.5-minute mark. There's no reason he had to die there, except that he didn't seem to realize just how much danger that he was in. And this is just a great game from Dimi. I mean, he played well for them last game too. Of course, he was a bit behind, so he struggled, but this time, just deleting oBoronic there. Clearly, Amaterasu does some damage.
Yeah, and like we talked about as well, like Dimi so far played 2 of his like OG gods, you know, like Amaterasu and Tyr, like does so well on Amaterasu this game. I would assume that Hype will look to ban away the Amaterasu next game.
I believe this Amaterasu was the first overall pick here as well, or rather the first pick for Outcold, who took second this time, and they got value out of it. We talk about that a lot too, about making sure that your first pick has first pick level value in the game, and watching those two to see which one ends up having more of it. And I think this time it was this Amaterasu that Outcold pick. We thought they were going to come in and take the first pick for themselves.
Yeah.
And they went over to the second pick slot and made great use of those first 2 picks.
Yeah, because the first game it looked like so many strong picks on Hype Unit. If I was Outcold, I would probably have chosen to go first pick and like look to target ban Outcold, Hype Unit rather. That wasn't the case. Also kind of weird by Hype Unit. They picked the Zeus over the Merlin. They had the chance to pick Merlin in this game,
they
but
took Jorm and Erlang Shen, I
yeah,
think,
exactly.
right?
Yeah. Where they had the chance to pick Merlin before Outcold picked it. So, and that's the backline they had the first game. It worked out so well. So I don't see why they switched it up. Maybe this is something they've been practicing and it has been working out. So, but yeah, I don't think they're gonna go back to the Zeus Khepri.
I mean, they were up a game over Outcold, an opponent that's favored here against them. Maybe they took that opportunity to try something new and see if they could expand their god pools, especially in everyone else's minds going forward. But instead, Outcold bounced back, answered it heavily, and now Hyping are going to have to hope that they can go back to what they did in Game 1, and that'll work for them again here. I do think they also need to get inbound on something aggressive. The Khepri made sense with that Zeus. You want to keep him alive, but I just don't think that's Inbound's play style. He prefers he could be a playmaker, could be right in the thick of things, not like that Khepri.
Yeah, you can be a playmaker with Khepri too, though, if you go to Blink. We see PBM does it all the time in SPL, and like you think of Khepri like a supportive support, you know, like just playing with the backline. But if you get a Blink at level 1, you have the opportunity to go for a lot of picks with the Blink abduct. So
Sure, I mean, if he's got to play Khepri, then maybe build Khepri in that playstyle, sort of to your point, right? Whichever one that it is, he's got to make sure that he's staying true to what's got Hyping to this point. And I think it has been really aggressive play out of the support, whether it is the Serqets or the Erlangs or Cabrakans or what have you. We just want to see him have that kind of playstyle rather than sitting back. Because even though I think he had some good reses this game, I mean, the Khepri play wasn't bad. It just wasn't quite as good as what we might have gotten from him on some other picks. It can be tough calls to make in spots like that.
Yeah, for sure. Thing is as well, like the first game when he had the aggressive Cabrakan, he played against a Hera. They picked Hera into it even, which is like the perfect opportunity for Cabrakan to do well, really, right? So maybe if he picks Cabrakan this time, Prime will be on something safer, maybe like a Merlin or something that can actually get out of the Cabrakan walls, so might not have the same effect.
Well, as you correctly put it, going into game number 2, the team that loses gets to pick which side they're on, if they want to be first pick or second pick, Chaos and Order, and Hype Unit has chosen to be the second pick here, the same way that Outcold did in game number 2. Maybe with all these great picks out there, the value of getting to pick twice in a row is perceived as higher than even that number 1 overall pick.
Yeah, that's weird. This switches around all the time. We saw like the last couple of weeks of SPL, there was like, it was really the first pick, especially like the last week. There was a lot of good best of 5s. the last 2 weeks of SPL, and it will always be the first pick that will be like the winning side most of the games at least.
You're exactly right, man. The first pick was dominant towards the end of the phase, and now all of a sudden it seems like maybe it's not the end-all be-all, but let's dive into these picks and bans so far. Hype Unit, despite being second pick, or because they're second pick, they're the ones doing all the meta bans, the Isis, the Persephone. You can't allow those picks through. They're also banning the Susano. Meanwhile, Outcold ban away the Set. That makes some sense. The Serqet is something Hype Unit have liked, but also the Hercules. They're limiting some of these aggressive picks for Hype Unit and grabbing the Ama for Dimi yet again.
Yeah. Last game, I think Outcold banned King Arthur. Oh wait, it was Hype Unit banned King Arthur last game. Kind of weird. I would assume they would pick it up here, right, against Amaterasu.
That's a great point.
Not 100% sure how that matchup goes, but it should be fine for King Arthur, I think. And it looked really good. Wolves looked really good on King Arthur in the first game, so probably gonna look to go back to that.
No reason why he shouldn't. He had some really nice ultimates that time. I know a lot of people don't believe the skill gap is there for King Arthur, but it absolutely is. You can face roll if you want to at home, but if you want to win at the high level, you got to be able to play it correctly. And Wolves certainly capable of it. They will indeed pick up the King Arthur. And now comes the question. They want the Merlin back here again. Is the Thor. They're going to get this out of FrostiaK's hands. And Frosty's played it in game 1 and game number 2. They're going to make him get back into the groove with something else.
200 IQ play by Outcold will be pick Morrigan and Merlin now to take both away from Hype Unit, but that's not the case with the Horus locked in already.
That's right. In a world where they can't pick Serqet, which Breez has played in both games, they'll instead give him the Horus support. And this does a lot of the same things. Horus can be a great initiator for the team and still has enough escapes to get back out. And they'll pair that with the Morrigan to get that out of Crimson's hands. These are great top 3 picks from Outcold.
Yeah, it is. And they at least got one of the 2 backliners out. Have to assume it's going to be a Merlin pick. Yeah, there we have it.
And this Merlin pick up. Likely be going over to oBoronic, but still some flex potential on who they want to play it and in which lane. Both of these teams have strong picks out these first 3 levels. What is it that you want to see to kind of round out these drafts? Is there anything that really steps out to you or stands out to you that would fit in really well with these 2 drafts?
I think Merlin combined with a demonic grip god like Oleron, Chronos.
Oleron, yeah.
Like, so strong, so I want to see that. Outcold might already know that, and they already banned Oleron. They might ban the Chronos here too, but I think Spudio might look to play Chronos. He played Chronos both games already and looked good on it, so
yeah,
expect to see another Chronos pick from Outcold there probably.
While Hype Unit take a real eye towards the jungle, Outcold, in a world where they don't get Thor for FrostiaK, they don't even bother taking a jungle form in the top 3, which means that Hype Unit can ban away the Hunbots and the Nemesis. I mean, those are some jungle picks and some ones Frosty likes, but those aren't necessarily top-tier junglers right now. Frosty should still have some good options to go to.
Yeah, I would maybe think like Ravana maybe for like the Morrigan transformation. Ravana's a really good transformation. Sure. Maybe like a Mercury or something. I think FrostiaK's always been good on Mercury, so he still has plenty of picks he could play here, I think.
It would give them some hyper carry potential. I wonder though if you want something a little more early game paired alongside this Horus. I mean, even something like a rat to kind of match this rotation from Thor perhaps could potentially give you that double dunk synergy on their side too. As Sylvanus comes in, I know this is slow and not quite as aggressive like we said, but Inbound really likes to play this pick. This is a comfort pick for him.
Yeah, we don't see that much Sylvanus anymore, but I still think he has a place in the meta. Like, his ultimate is just so good, right? If you don't pre-beat his ultimate, you're knocked up for so long, and if the carries are ready to follow up on that, like, you're just dead, right? So, like, there's always this constant threat when you play against Sylvanus, and also brings so much sustain to the team, so never bad.
All right, so it'll be Morrigan then for Prime and Chronos for Spudio. They'll give this Robin over to FrostiaK as well, and Outcold now have relevance at every stage of the game. Horus and Robin being able to do plenty of work for you early, then Amaterasu, Morrigan, and Chronos to take that baton in the late game. Outcold have a really well-rounded draft here, and they're in a great spot to wrap this up.
Yeah, they don't have the greatest objective damage, like Chronos has really good objective damage. Morrigan, she's alright, but I guess they have Amaterasu as well, which like brings so much extra damage with their auras and their passives. Right. So I guess there's a very well-rounded draft. They kind of have everything.
Thoth makes a ton of sense though. Crimson and oBoronic both kind of went back and forth on top Thoth players on the box for a while there. So it doesn't matter which one you give it to in terms of the Thoth here. And they've got the Merlin. This is not bad from Hype Unit at all. This is such a classic draft from them. And it might not be the strongest in this meta, but this is the kind of stuff that Hype Unit love to play. This is a perfect draft for them.
I really like this draft by Hype Unit. That's quite a disgusting draft. They have so much poke with Thoth and Merlin, both super long range. They have one of the few junglers that can poke efficiently as well, and CC on the same time. Like, if they just play as a unit this game and just play back and poke, that's a really good draft, actually.
They have a great draft. I'm just a bit worried about them in this early game. It could be very easy to get picked off by a Horus and all his extra damage and a Ravana there to follow up. They don't have huge CC tools except for the Ama ult, but the way that their smaller tools pieced together can be very difficult to deal with this Outcold draft. Hype unit, as long as in particular Inbound is careful in the early game, I think they've had a good shot here.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I feel like Sylvanus is gonna be the priority target for Outcold as well, because you think of Thoth, Merlin, super easy for them to get out. Like, even if you get blinked on by Horus, like blink stun, you know, it's super easy for them to just dash out of it. So I think Sylvanus is gonna be the main target, and we've seen Inbound die a bit in the early game, so he's really gonna have to play well here in the early game to not fall too far behind.
I imagine that that's going to be a big deal. The 3v3 has been another big determining factor. In game number 1, FrostiPriMe and Breez really struggled. In game number 2, it was Layers and oBoronic and Inbound that struggled. So the 3v3 could be telling overall. Not just can Inbound survive, but can all 3 members of that core of the team in those first 15 minutes focus well enough to allow their sideliners to rotate and start having the big impact. I mean, this is the decider match, Zeros. Which way are you leaning in this one?
I don't know, man. I like both draws. It's just I haven't seen enough of Hype Unit to like really know how confident they are on these picks. Because I feel any team that has Morrigan should win, but you never know. I suppose it's Prime on the Morrigan. I haven't really seen him on Morrigan too much. So I don't know how good he is at it, but he's played the game for so long, and I know he's played Morrigan in the past, so he's probably going to perform well.
And I'm sure Prime won't have any trouble turning into the Amaterasu this game and giving them another dazzling offensive. We talked about that at the beginning here of this phase. Who those Morrigan targets are can be huge. The decider match between Outcold and Hype Unit about to get underway.
Thanks so much, Finch and Zeros on the desk. Myself and Aggro will be joining you for Game 3 one more time. Outcold, won Game 2. Hype Unit, Game 1. Let's see how this plays out.
I'm excited, man. I mean, I do think that these drafts are both pretty solid. I agree with Zeros. I actually thought Hype Unit came in really prepared. That draft, the first three picks for Hype Unit, I thought were perfect. Take the King Arthur and get FrostiaK off that Thor, and you've already banned the Susano. I like it. The Nemesis ban concerns me a little bit because Ravana is the other god that FrostiaK usually goes to. I understand they were worried about it because they had the Sylvanus in their mind. It is what they were going to go to, but that gives a good transformation over to the Morrigan. It's a pick that FrostiaK's more comfortable on. It's still a good pick against Sylvanus anyways. He struggles against ranged roots in general. I'm a little bit concerned. I think of this game goes entirely on FrostiaK, man. He has to perform.
Does Nemesis, though, not have more knock-on effects on the rest of the team outside of that one pick?
Not really. Just by sprint, you're probably okay. How much Nemesis have we seen recently? So little.
Well, I mean, Relic Daggers in the builds quite a lot these days.
Yeah.
A couple of Wing Blades could always help out in those circumstances.
Exactly. I mean, you could itemize around Nemesis pretty well. I think if FrostiaK picks Nemesis there, you're pretty happy with the way the draft went. And then it's up to you to execute in-game. As it stands, I think that the Ravana pick is still really solid for FrostiaK. It's a god that builds brawlers well because he leverages early base damage really well. He can root you from a distance anyways. I'm a little bit concerned about it. I think that it's going to be look, it's always which way is FrostiaK going to go.
Oh, yeah.
When it comes out cold, but in this game more than any other, it feels like a lot is riding on FrostiaK.
I will apologize to the fans at home real quick because I was joking off air with Ryan that we've not had a pause today yet. And of course in Game 3, we get a pause straight away at the beginning of it. But it's all taken care of now. Boots online for Crimson on this Thoth. Same can be said for Breez and the Horus, who's taking the battle to Inbound at the moment. This is an interesting battle between the two because of how the speed buff went in Game 2.
It looks like Inbound has done enough to fend off Breez. Layers is lurking on this side of the map, and so that's why Inbound doesn't want to keep Breez there. That's why he pushes him away, is because he knows Layers wants to start at his own speed this time around.
All this time, though, FrostiaK is busy farming while Layers hasn't got a single thing just yet. Breez trying to take away this blue buff or keep Inbound busy on this side. Very close engagement, but Breez will come out on top. It did work out nicely for him to keep Inbound busy.
Good stun by Breez, then turns around, uses the hit of the spear with Fracture in order to get it going in his favor. I mean, I thought Game 2 was really determined by the pressure that was put onto Wolves, the fact that he lost all his blues early on, that Dimi got really far ahead. And I think that Hype Unit's going to have to do a very good job here in Game 3 of making sure that the exact same thing doesn't happen once again. You got to get Wolves' early blues, set him up for some success in this lane.
Spudio is going to be a little bit careful here, as he's a little bit aggressive, but the stun from Crimson didn't find its target. So Layers can't really close the gap at level 2 effectively. No wall available. You go for the spin option and the hammer. So Spudio just quite patiently walks away.
I like the idea. I mean, Spudio's really far up in lane. If you land that root from Crimson, then you get beads. Probably don't get a kill unless Layers wants to use his own beads to pre-bead the stun. But even then, I don't think you end up getting that one. Good idea. Layers needed to find some farm somewhere anyways, so that'll do.
Breez definitely a little bit further ahead than Inbound at the moment, but a bit more sharing in mid lane means he's still level 1. Hype Unit trying to get their own back harpies here as the aggression from Outcold is on the march through the jungle. Red buff is on cooldown, already given to Oboronic, so that won't be available. But it has opened up these oracles on the left-hand side. Breez didn't manage to share them there, so he's still at the level 1. Same can be said for Inbound.
Good understanding by Layers that he wanted to go for those oracles at that point, but knew it wasn't going to be a realistic option with how much pressure that Outcold had in mid. They were going to rotate in force, just guarantee some more farm for FrostiaK and Prime, and more importantly, takes away from Layers, who's had some struggles so far keeping up in this early game.
Yeah, Layers made walk over here to try and soak some experience from this lane from Wolves, as Wolves ripping us down the health bars. May look for a bit of pressure on Dimi, who just hit level 4 though, and that could already be an idea of let's not get too aggressive in this scenario right now. Let's just try and secure our own blue buff.
But I don't know that they can for free. I mean, Dimi's level 4, as you said. You can walk in here, and Reflecting Mirror does so much damage. He can out-secure 2-1.
The reset from Layers may have helped him out a little bit more so. The reflection from the shield only held to carries, and Bobby's here to try and block off the option. FrostiaK to help. Make sure he gets away pretty much unscathed there. Just the pressure of FrostiaK standing there is enough to allow him to escape and not give up first blood. But Hype Unit secure their own blue buff off the back of it.
But they have to 3-way split it, where FrostiaK solos his speed. Now Layers going to go and duo split his speed buff, it looks like. No, Inbound will let him take that farm solo, but it's still a much slower pace in comparison to what FrostiaK has done so far. I mean, he's got 7 more stacks on the Assassin's Blessing. That's a pretty big difference. That's 3 camps, effectively.
I mean, this works out well for Outcold Gaming, not just because they have a small lead in the jungle now, but all their characters in multiple roles just want to farm through this early game.
They've got a great late game. I mean, their late game is nasty.
Yeah.
They've got Ama, they've got Chronos, and they've got a Morrigan. I don't know how you can test that. I mean, the late game for Hype Unit's really not bad at all. Thor transitions well into the late game these days. Merlin's a really good late game character. Thoth is a premier late game mage.
Inbound in trouble, knocked up straight away by Breez. The follow damage is there from Frosty, and PrettyPriMe transforms and kicks him down. But Oboronic does at least claim the life of Breez. Layers turns up in time, makes it a 1-for-1 support for support. The damage, though, is the first blood bounty.
Certainly, Outcold is pretty happy with that outcome. The fact that Prime does use the ultimate towards the back end does skew it a little bit more towards Hype Units. But at the end of the day, first blood versus not first blood, you're almost always taking the team that gets that bounty.
And that actually went to PrettyPriMe as well, so I don't think he'll be too upset about using that transformation at this point in time. Will allow him to get towards that Doom Orb a little bit quicker than that of Oboronic, who, in fairness, did get the kill in response onto Breez. As both those supports end up falling back to base, it's full boots complete for both of them. But Inbound has a small advantage there. Once again, Breez going for the warrior tabby. He really likes these power options.
And he's playing gods that leverage them very well, so that makes sense to me. Serqet games 1 and 2.
I'm not so sure about Horus, though. I really am not sold on Horus building damage. He just doesn't do enough damage.
I don't know, man. He swings if you get ahead.
If you get a whole updraft combo up, sure. But realistically, in the support role, you may not get him as often as you want.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you feel like you're guaranteeing it off the fracture. You knock him up. You get to hit him with the gust afterwards, and then you get to immediately start auto-attacking them.
I'm saying by end of the game, even if the Hype Unit lose, I think Sylvanus will have more player damage than that Horus.
There's a pretty good shot. I mean, Sylvanus has AoE, Horus doesn't.
I'm just saying, like, in the grand scheme of him as a support warrior tabby doesn't really work as well as
But in the late, it's all about the early game. And the Morrigan doesn't want to have to transform early on unless she has to. She doesn't have a lot of damage in that instance.
Wolves, very good ultimate there to avoid the ultimate out from Dimi, but in the sky is Layers now, and Dimi's going to get dunks on. The wall cuts it off with a double tap to connect, and FrostiaK juggled in the air will not escape the danger of Layers yet again. 2 kills the way of Hype Unit.
So much better from Hype Unit. It's all centered around Wolves on this right-hand side. Instead of getting invaded and getting down on XP and just not being able to be a factor, instead, he ends up 2v1ing and setting up for insane kills by Layers joining in.
Prime under a bit of pressure here. No ultimate. Did just use the stealth. Crimson dashes in with the stun. Follow-up damage is there from oBoronic, and Prime will just get his ultimate up in time, but not in time to escape as Thor. Another kill for Hype Unit, as that was Outcold getting aggressive themselves, looking for the red invade.
Prime got it, too. He just paths in a way that puts him in a bad spot, that he kind of keeps going on the wrong side.
Frosty's overhead kick will allow him to keep it at combat and blink away to safety. Layers was out of mana there, though, so he may have been a little bit safer than they realized at that moment in time. But the pressure from oBoronic and Inbound coming from mid lane is enough to give him the reason to do so.
Interesting ninja tab I pick up by FrostiaK. I think that we've seen not enough ninja tab in the jungle. I think this item is really, really strong. However,
but on
Robin doesn't seem like the god, because he has such a quick attack chain anyways, but you can easily weave in the 1-2, you know, you root 1-2-1, 1-2-2. You don't really need Ninja Tabi for that. And the third hit of that attack chain is so long that even with the extra attack speed, you're not gonna get it anyways in those instances. Maybe it's because he's gonna go Transcendence later and it has mana on it, and so he's converting that into power. But I feel like you just want on Robin to be strong early, and Warrior Tabi is the way to do it.
I'm trying to find him a benefit of the doubt. Maybe when he actually died in that last little engagement in the blue, he might have had the gold for it, but
sure.
I'm really pushing it.
He may have had 1,500, not 1,550. He had boots too, so, you know, 650 instead of 700.
Power spikes are important at certain points. Wolves going to try and get the blue buff. Dimi on this right-hand side, trying to cause a problem. Inbound oBoronic and Layers all waiting. And now Dimi has been juggled by Wolves. Not using the ultimate just yet. Very patient there, Dimi, not to blow the ultimate in response. But Layers and Inbound just dunk on Frosty and Breez. Breez with a very good play to keep FrostiaK alive and may still survive. No, oBoronic is there for cleanup. All the while, you saw Prime pressure the mid lane and now invade the red buff in response. But it won't work out for Breez at the end of the day.
Man, Layers is a nutcase. That dunk was absolutely filthy. And Inbound's right there with him too. Blink. It straight into the ultimate. That was flawless between those two who have played together for a very long time. Little bit unfortunate they can't get the kill onto FrostiaK even without beads. The fact that he survives that CC chain probably a little bit disappointing for Hype Unit, but at the end of the day, that level of execution, that scares you if you're out cold. You go, uh-oh, they're starting to feel it a little bit.
Bit of a reality check more than anything else, I'd say. Hype Unit then up 5-1 based off that little pick there. We'll give credit to Breez because that heal towards FrostiaK I think is one of the reasons Frosty managed to survive. But it also cost him a life for doing so, I would say. As now oBoronic gets back towards the mid lane, hits level 9 to keep pace for now with PrettyPriMe. And Dimi couldn't really get involved in that engagement there. He ate the Wolves' ultimate and got zoned away, but just had to watch, really.
And he has to be hovering over his dazzling offensive the whole time, because if he sees the warning sign, the Layers is coming for him, then if he doesn't ult right away, then he's CC chained and he's killed. And so Wolves does a very nice job of taking pressure, you release the pressure on the right-hand side and push Dimi out, and that pulls in FrostiaK and Breez in order to get ready because they think that's who's getting dunked, and that just lines them up.
I will say as well, Layers was pretty much a max range, I want to say, there, from where he positioned his ultimate from to catch that angle. It's pretty good distance there.
And look at all the wards now on the right-hand side for Outcold. They're like, all right, boys, we aren't getting dunked if we can help it, but I don't think that they've got warded where Layers has been taking off from. He's been taking off from Fire Pit. I don't think they've got the vision there.
I mean, the old days, you used to always ward the Fire Giant and the Gold Fury to protect your lane situation, because that's where the Thors like to hover and hang around. Same can be said for Ratatoska, which we've not really seen too much of yet this tournament. We'll see if he climbs into play later on, as Frosty now rotating back towards this mid lane. Nothing really up in the jungle at the moment. Pyromancer is the only really thing on this right-hand side, but more importantly, the blue buff is about to spawn, and the action may begin again.
Wolves can keep everybody busy by himself. FrostiaK and Dimi are going to just try and do the buff, but Breez doesn't get an option to take off.
Just too low in terms of how to stay alive long enough, and now Prime caught in no man's land. The wall will give him enough of a window to ult away, but Layers can give chase.
Layers gonna line it up and find it. Of course he does. Wall opportunity here because FrostiaK doesn't have an option.
But what would they get if they managed to wall him? I don't think they had the follow-up damage available realistically to find that kill on Frosty. Blue buff is down. Dimi did at least secure that. So now with this, Inbound and Layers get aggressive and look to take away speed that's not there. Now they look at FrostiaK. Cooldowns are available again.
Has his ultimate still, and he's going to need it here. Layers doesn't end up committing. Actually, good patience by FrostiaK. I thought he was going to need that one for sure.
Dimi rotating too. Breez blinks in, stuns Inbound. Inbound low on mana and health. As Dimi going to try and whittle him down, the root will come through, but Inbound will fall down to Dimi. Good rotation. Respawn from Breez, immediate impact.
And it just a little bit too late there for Hype Unit. They either don't commit on a FrostiaK and force him back so that he can't help on that Breez initiation, or they just shouldn't be there in the first place. They were looking for speed buff. It was coming up very soon, but just a little bit too early on that invade attempt. They stick around a little bit too long, and good decision making by Layers. You have to accept at times that your support's gonna die. Inbound does the right thing and pulls back and doesn't kind of lead out cold to the rest of his team.
I do want you all to note the score might be 2-7 in favor of Hype Unit, and they're getting the majority of the kills, but the gold differential isn't that big just yet. Less than 1,000 gold, and more importantly, the experience is still even. Outcold doing a very good job of, even though they're losing a couple of battles, they're finding wins elsewhere.
They are, and that's a lot of the reason is because of those red buff invades. We saw PrettyPriMe do it alongside Spudio. We saw Prime do it and die for it. That is a good way to make sure that you're not falling too far behind. If Prime feels like he can't affect that fight on the right-hand side, just rotate over to the other side. If you feel pressure one side, go to the other.
Wolf available. Dimi going to start it up, get some support from FrostiaK. Hype Unit not looking this direction this time round though. Their own red buff more important to them, not allowing that to be stripped away and allowing PrettyPriMe to continue the aggression there. So blue buff secured for Dimi at the moment. Wolves will fall back to the coup. Everything's okay for this rotation.
I mean, Wolves is actually a little bit behind in XP now because he's had to split so much on this right-hand side. That's the one downside of having your boys come over and help you out with a lot of invades.
5 assists and you're down in XP. That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, he's just had to share a little bit more. Dimi's been able to solo farm pretty well. But even still, he's playing aggressively. He's forcing Dimi to duo split speed or blue so that he's not getting even further ahead. I think Wolves had a fantastic Game 3.
I'm glad to see Wolves playing with confidence as well. It's not an easy task because a lot of people know Dimi and have seen him play through the years, especially when he's on the likes of Amaterasu and Tyr. You're like, geez, I got to face off against this guy in lane. Like, he used to have games where he'd solo carry certain situations after being down all day. So, well, just play strong, you know? Play to your strengths, and Wolves is doing just that, as is Hype Unit.
Layers up in the air right now, might not have a great spot to lay, and then he doesn't, so he heads back towards mid. You got FrostiaK's ultimate out, blink in from Breez at the same time. I like the idea. Stay aggressive if you're Hype Unit. Don't let off the gas too much.
oBoronic, meanwhile, on this Merlin in the mid lane, hits level 12 and has gone for the very similar build that we saw at PrettyPriMe earlier, the Tier 2 Cursed Orb, not the Doom Orb just yet. Straight to Spear the Magus, so that's going to really help out the damage output for when Thoth comes into play with Crimson, who's gone for that Divine Ruin, and he's level 15 now. These final judgments are really going to swing and could surprise a couple of members of Outcold if they're not careful.
I love that oBoronic goes for the spear to enhance the Crimson's damage. Zeros was talking on the desk about how much he loves spear characters alongside the Demonic Grip auto attackers. Those are taken away by the Olorun ban and the Chronos pick by Outcold. So Hype Unit still goes something magical over there. It's Crimson's arguable best god in Thoth. It's a god that applies Divine Ruin very well and really benefits from oBoronic Spear the Magus.
Interesting to see Dimi going for that shield or regrowth, funny enough here. Why is he going for the shield?
Extra HP, also some CDR. Berserker is very good at keeping you in parity in lane, but doesn't have any CDR built in, so maybe that way.
Does have a bit of self-sustain, so I guess maybe I'll proc off that. I wasn't sure if it did. Spudio trying to defend the Gold Fury here, gets some good damage up on Crimson, but Hype Unit will get the Gold Fury, and Crimson is still alive, but FrostiaK's there trying to get the gap closed. Breez, meanwhile, does take out Inbound. oBoronic does a good job of peeling away for Crimson there to keep FrostiaK at bay, who didn't have his ultimate up
Actually,
to secure the kill.
Body blocked the Shadow Fist to make sure Crimson survives. Bit of a risky call there by Hype Unit, but the risk pays off. They get the objective, they lose the support. That's a tale as old as time. But at the same time, you lose Tier 1. Also part of the deal a lot of the time.
Yeah, Breez does a very good job of zoning a nice little swoop away from Wolves' ultimate. Layers now in the sky. Was a little bit too far away, the Outcold boys now. They fell back nice and quick. FrostiaK on that left-hand side did push that whole wave into Tower 2 to just chip away there. But Hype Unit might have a bit of a window for a Pyromancer now.
This is the seesaw action of We ended up starting off the aggression, so you have to continue to answer to us. Eventually, Pyro does go their way.
Not this time, Dini. Seen it a few times, but Breez low on mono. Wolves trapped in place. PrettyPriMe may have to stun him, but can't find the stun. FrostiaK now wrapping around the back, and Wolves getting aggressive on Breez. That's a support, but it's only level 11. And the pull was just off the mark from Inbound there. Breez still under pressure, and Bobby blinks in and ults nicely. To the backside, they look for layers, though. FrostiaK and Dimi jumping on in to make it a 1-for-1.
Crimson is swinging, and Final Judgment puts him down. Prime has the transformation, but still in an awkward spot.
Oh, he's in a worse spot now that Wolves is wrapped behind him and picks him up for another kill. 3-for-1 as the Pyro falls in favor of Hype Unit. They can now look for a tier 1 in the mid lane.
Whew, what a fight by Hype Unit, and the execution a little bit off Inbound, almost had the pull off of the Wolves ultimate, but then he had a huge ult, and all sins are forgiven. There's just one big difference between Game 2 and Game 3, and it's the Wolves show, man. I mean, when Hype Unit dominates the console region, it's oftentimes because Wolves just looks like the best player on the field. And Outcold identified that in Game 2. They took him out of the game and were able to walk to an easy win. Wolves, I mean, at MSI, I think the thing that I was most excited about, honestly, was getting a chance to see Wolves against other solo laners.
Yeah.
It's always been the talk of this team. You know, how could Wolves play against Variety and guys like that? And to be honest, I don't think he lived up to that hype at MSI. I think that Layers had an explosive performance, as did Oboronic. Those two really burst their names onto the scene, and Wolves kind of took a step back, didn't have his best LAN. I thought it was big for him to come into this LAN and reestablish himself as a top-tier solo laner, not for an Xboxer, but for a player on the SPL stage, and he's done it here in Game 3.
Definitely a situation, though, when you get talked about a lot, you may start to feel that you must be good enough to play at that level, and then you can get a bit of a reality check. It feels like Wolves May has gone away, practiced, rehearsed what he needs to do, got back to his best, and now he's coming out to form here, keeping even par still with Dimi. And that's credit to where, you know, how good Dimi is, that he's still even in this game.
Yeah, I mean, Wolves has run this game. Make no bones about it. He has been the reason.
Bloodline initiating with the ults consistently.
But this is risky. He just proxy between tier 2 and a
We cast a curse him, didn't we?
He's got Blink.
I thought Prime was going to get there, that's why.
No, he's fine. He's A-okay.
All the while, though, he's drawing a bit of attention to that right-hand side. It is giving Hype Unit a bit of a chance to whittle down the tier 1 health bar. But without minions, this isn't the easiest thing in the world.
No
Hype
Hunter
Unit
either.
Having to take a while. I mean, yeah, there's no Chronos on this one when you think about it. FrostiaK going to get aggressive. Inbound baited to use the ultimate. Crimson forced to use the beads, but will dash away. Horus in the sky, breezes in, and he stuns, put Inbound in place.
Layers looking for someone. Oh no, that's Prime who jumps down and teleports in. He's gonna get Crimson, but now he might pay.
And Inbound has fallen too. Spudio gets credit for that life. On the backside though, FrostiaK still shooting with Layers, and Layers just drops the wall and ends the life.
Great
Too
boss
far
time.
forward from FrostiaK as now Wolves has to deal with 3. But Dimi just shielded, shot Oboronic in the back of the head.
The Thorns pick up for Dimi, kills Oboronic just a little bit too greedy.
I don't think he can do
for
this.
the mid laner.
He could possibly do this if it wasn't for the fact there's a Horus that will resustain up his carries and keep them topped up. Spudio gets credit for the kill. 4 members of Hype Unit down, and can we just notice that that was them going for a tier 1 tower on the left-hand side without minions?
No minions, just what's the... Why?
I don't get it.
Let's talk about our benefits of that happening.
Let's just clarify that. It's no minions, but also no Hunter. We established there was no one to take the towers effectively.
They just don't do enough tower damage, and it's just the risk-reward of that play
It's not worthwhile.
is so skewed. I mean, what do we get if we get that tier 1? 500 gold spread across the team, a little bit of map pressure before Primal Fury spawns. What's the worst case scenario? We get 4-for-1 and lose our tier 2 on the left-hand side and use a bunch of carry relics all at the same time. Spudio has a sick fight. He chases down Crimson.
Prime too.
Nearly one-shots him. Prime a little bit risky with his play, but it pays off for him in the end. He's the only one who gets traded out. I mean, Oboronic now, no relics, no beads for Crimson. If I'm out cold, I'm slamming this Primal Fury right now. Group up.
Well, 20 minutes in, 20 kills in the game, and we're all tied up as the Primal Fury is started by Spudio.
Frosty's not here.
Has it leashed towards him as Inbound steps into the pit, looks for a pull. Won't find it, but it will at least force a reset for a second. Still FrostiaK on the rotation over from the right-hand side after getting his speed buff now. Will be here in time. Both teams on a very even footing now with how that last fight ended.
might be waiting around if you're Hype Unit here for some relics, but you know that Prime doesn't have them either, and you've got some pretty easy CC chains. Also, Inbound whiffing his ultimate on that last engagement, not a good way to win a fight. He's got to find well, to say he's got to find a better one is a very obvious statement, but he's got to find an actively good one at this point. Spudio's level 20 and has all his relics and his ulta.
I got the read from Inbound there, but he's starting to fall a little bit behind, as is Breez, to be fair. In terms of experience now, this is an awkward spot for supports to be in, because this is the moment where everyone's starting to get higher level. Level 18s are coming into play, 20s almost. Even, I should say, Spudio is 20. That's when the supports are really squishy and they need to find a bit of farm, but they're forced to fight at objectives like this, and they can get punished because of it. Spudio can find the stun. Layers in the sky. Where's he going to come down?
Might find FrostiaK. I don't think Frosty has beads. He finds Dimi and Breez at the same time, and Dimi still survives.
Just about, and I think it was the shield from Breez that kept him topped up in time. Oboronic has fallen at Wolves, is very, very low. Spudio can run this down. We'll get some support from FrostiaK at the tail end. Wolves still alive thanks to the help of the Gladiator shield until the fist connects from Frosty. Inbound is a tree, and the tree will fall in the jungle. Everyone will hear that scream. As now Outcold have made it 12-12, and that was an initiation from Hype Unit.
Easy breezy, baby. That up-down with the to the skies may have just advanced Outcold in this game, because Layers finds a sick dunk, but he's a little bit too far from the rest of the team. Just can't quite get any follow-up on it. That up-down did provide the shield to Dimi that saves his life. And the SMITE freshman ends up making the big play.
Now this is a double elimination tournament, so even whoever loses this one isn't going out just yet. I don't think any team will really look forward to facing off against either with how well these two have played today so far.
I agree. I think that Hype Unit has certainly shed the stigma they may have earned yesterday with their rougher performance against Rival, where both teams struggled a little bit. This game, they look so much cleaner, and Outcold has been able to bounce back. And I think that's the biggest thing. If Outcold came out today and just 2-0'd Hype Unit in 25 minutes each,
no one would have looked good. No one would have been surprised based off what we saw yesterday.
Oh, okay. It's just Hype Unit taking care of business. No. This was a legitimate team. Hype Unit came to play, and Outcold responded nicely.
But this works out very well for Outcold, to be fair. Be put at a deficit early and be on your gun straight away. They probably would have preferred to 2-0, sure, but they would have liked to battle, and that's exactly what they've got in this best of 3 so far. Now, though, with that Fury going down and the Fire Giant around their waist, it's time to start trying to whittle down some towers. But they've got to be careful about overextending just a little bit. The defense from Hype Unit isn't all that bad, to be fair.
It's actually very strong.
And tough. And two that I'm definitely looking at.
So those two are really good. Merlin's excellent at the siege defenses, and Outcold don't have great initiation. Who are you relying on? It's Breez finding to the skies, a blink in maybe. You're really hoping that Hype Unit over-aggresses, and that's something that they do have a propensity for. So that's something that if I'm on Hype Unit, I'm telling Wolves and I'm telling Inbound, hey, let's stay at home. We don't need to force anything. If we see a really good blink ult for the Sylvanus, we can take it, but let's make sure that we are set for it. Let's make sure that Oboronic has buttons up, that Crimson has buttons up. Those two things need to be ready.
Tier 2 on the right-hand side, slowly being whittled down by Spudio, who's swinging pretty heavily right now, I will say, on towards this Tier 2 tower. We'll make short work of it. MORWolves will be next. Hype Unit will stay at their Phoenix line. They may, looking at the position, they may look to like show that they're going to try and defend this Tier 2. Is this worthwhile? Just to slow them down?
Yeah, you could. I mean, relic situation's fine on both sides. I don't mind a soft defense here.
Well, Wolves just got hit by one basic there. Had a bit of a reality check. Layers go to the sky. Wolves at half health and has to run away, but Dimi's still giving chase and finds the stun. Layers blinks the backside though with the ultimate. Gets Spudio's rewind. Looks for the hammer on Breez, but Breez was already challenging the ultimate. Dimi very low, but the tower falls down. All members of Outcold still alive. Same could be said for Hype Unit. Lot of ultimates consumed by both teams, however.
Only Prime's ultimate still standing on Outcold side of the map. Wolves has his, but that's, you know, King Arthur, what can you do? Really sick peel by Inbound right there to keep Wolves up. If they lose Wolves, that may have been a Phoenix.
I will say they've only got a minute on the FG as well, so it works out for Hype Unit to slow them down to that Tier 2. Because I don't think Outcold will get aggressive for a Phoenix just yet. They may have to go for another Fire Giant. So if anything, the game's not completely over just yet.
No, not yet. I mean, this is still a winnable game for Hype Unit. Their back is against the wall. And I don't know how much I love this Jade Emperor's pickup from Inbound. Feels like he's really worried about Dimi and FrostiaK, and they'll be doing a lot of the diving. but he needs some magic defense. I mean, you've got a Morrigan and, more importantly, a Chronos on the other side, and Spudio's felt like he's done all the damage so far this game. I'm worried that one Chrono stun after a Breez setup is going to be lights out for Inbound.
Isn't the Jade, though, to help the team more than anything else? Is to protect his backline, I guess?
Yeah, but...
He's not worried about himself?
I need him there.
Sure.
I need that body in front of me. If he dies to one Chrono stun, that Jade Emperor isn't going to be around very long anyways.
Supports don't have their ultimates up yet, but everybody else
15
does.
seconds.
Keep an eye on what's going on here. Breez late for the charge. Wolves steps forward to zone them back away. Fire Giant wears off in about 4 seconds time from the moment I finish talking.
No E-Staff for Crimson, no Soul Reaver for Crimson either. He went with Shaman's Ring. A little bit more focused on dealing damage to the squishies with this pickup, and it can work. I think Shaman's is a fine pickup, but Thoth is so good with these proc items because he can do it so easily and so consistently from a distance.
Layers is going to go for it. They're waiting in the trap, and the trap's been set by Hype! Spudio's already dead, didn't even get a relic off in time. His beads were on cooldown. Layers gets Dimi, Breez ults away. And that was all Outcold, which I was going to say they were sat on a ward the entire time.
Oh, that's
and Hype
sick.
went, do we go for this?
Yeah, Layers like, bro, he's standing still. I gotta go for this. No Aegis preemptively for Spudio.
Spudio didn't have beads.
He did
and I think
not.
that's the one big key there. If he had his beads up, I think that fight could have gone differently.
It's
Not by a lot, but I think he could have.
either way, he gets one tapped by all that damage. And FrostiaK is, what is he doing here?
Well, he's going to ult over. He waited those left ones pretty bad, but Layers going to try and cut him off. Overhead kick just in time, and the blink. Look, wasted by FrostiaK there to get away from a position he didn't need to be in.
Go Fire.
Now Hype Unit can look for a tier 2 with minions or fall back to the Fire Giant that just spawned. It's not an enhanced version just yet, but this game is seesawing once more.
Man, what a call by Hype Unit, and just good ward vision. Wards win games, man. That one little ward, whoever placed it by back harpies is maybe getting dinner tonight.
And now it's on Breez to try and defend an FG. On the way is FrostiaK with no ultimate, remember. PrettyPriMe sneaking around.
Come in.
He won't be able to sneak not quick enough, though. Fire Giant at half health. Hype Unit not coming to
Waffling.
FG. They're juggling it. They can't decide what to do.
Piranha's
Layers
taking
taking
so
a
much
ton of damage off FrostiaK. And now Dimi continuing to chase in. Hype Unit forced away from FG. Wolves isolated and alone and could be a casualty now. He's going to rotate towards mid. Frosty wasn't looking. He was too busy looking at Layers, but Wolves should still fall down.
Hello.
Nice 4-man stun. And he'll buy some time with Gladiator Shield, but not enough time to survive.
Yeah, I mean, Hype Unit just doesn't have that good of objective damage because of the itemization choices. I mean, their characters in Thoth and Merlin can do good damage, but Gem of Isolation for Oboronic is not a good objective shred option. Shaman's Ring, a little bit of power, but the passive doesn't affect Fire Giant. I mean, if that is Soul Reaver in that slot for Oboronic or for Crimson, that's a decent amount of extra damage that I don't know that it makes them that much more comfortable, but I feel like Hype Unit, you have to go, there has to be a one call right there, and they have to be very confident in what that call is going to be. And they just looked a little bit too hesitant.
Discombobulated is the word I was looking for there. Breez now going to ult early on and just show the rest of Hype Unit what's going on. He'll land down on the Phoenix line, bring some minions with him too, which is nice. Layers in the sky, but the Phoenix has already fallen down. He'll crash to the back and look for damage on Spudio, and Spudio forced to beads away. And rewind, and now Layers could be in trouble, but I don't think Spudio realized how close Layers was to being in the worst possible spot.
I mean, he got beads and ult out from Spudio. That means one blink, Terra's Wrath, and straight into that big ultimate from Crimson. Could work.
It could. 13-14 then. Hype Unit up in kills, but down in gold, and that gold still matters. A lot of players still without complete builds going on here. Even with the fact we've got the speed, electric speed available, a lot of boots up too as Outcold fall back. With the result of the Phoenix going down the right-hand side, they should be able to buy, and they've got about 2 minutes left with the rest of this FG.
A late Chile here for Layers. Had the Heartseeker done already, so he goes with this option instead of the Runic Shield this time around. Stops the potential follow-up from Breez off the knock-up. If he gets hit by some magical damage as he's stunned with Fracture, it'll silence out Breez, potentially stop the knock-up from coming through. Extra little bit of CDR, gets him towards that 30% mark. It's fine.
Aggro, this game's going to keep going a little bit longer because at the moment Inbound is embarrassing me that Horus is beating him on player damage. After we discussing it earlier, I'm like, come on.
What
Those
do you
warrior
know?
tabby really came up big, man.
Yeah, that's definitely like 1,500 damage right there, just from the
Must
warrior
be.
tab. Has to be.
The reason for it. Siege up the left-hand side then from Outcold. No surprising with the Phoenix being down on the right-hand side. Those fire minions will do a lot of the work for them to keep some Hype Unit members busy. We mentioned the Hype Unit have a very good Phoenix defense, but they have already lost a Phoenix, and this makes it a lot trickier now.
Inbound has to try and find a blink initiation, probably on a Spudio, but FrostiaK loses his trade pretty heavily in mid.
And Wolves going to get aggressive too. Prime forced to stun Wolves and force him back. Breez also uses the ultimate to protect his teammates. Phoenix at half health is inbound, blinks in and gets a good ultimate off. And Crimson takes out FrostiaK's face. Layers to the backside and takes down 2.
What a beast!
Now Dimi's in trouble as well. He'll get a triple kill. Only Breez left standing. And
They
Hype
did it!
Unit have turned it again.
That's game, I think. They should be able to walk it down. How about
Too many towers.
LayersSlays?
I don't think they can.
I mean, their lack of physical damage is
Yes.
going to be a big problem
I don't
here.
think they can.
Wolves has TP though. I mean, he can defend this Titan and TP in. They've got 30 plus seconds on everybody.
I don't know. Frosty, Wolves?
These Oni
Wolves?
waves are crushing.
Wolves? He needs help, boys!
All right, Oboronic
Send him back
backs.
to base!
I think that in Oboronic backs, man, I don't know. I think they
Okay,
should have
teleport. They've
gone
got teleport.
for it.
Hang on, 17
But they don't have
seconds on
Oboronic
Frosty.
anymore.
They don't have Oboronic, as you said. This is taking a long time to whittle down, but it's 10 seconds on Frosty, 14 on PrettyPriMe. It's a Phoenix now. It's
Yeah,
a
you
Phoenix
gotta
now.
get
That's
out
all they
now.
can do.
I think they could have ended, man. If they bring everyone in, I mean,
They lose Titan. Look at the Titan's health. They would have lost Titan. They couldn't do that. They had no call.
yeah, I guess you're right. Oboronic had to be there to defend that tower. How about Layers, man, though? What
Great
an
fight.
animal this guy is. It really good at blink initiation from Inbound.
Yep.
And I thought that Spudio was going to be the priority target the whole time. I'll bet you he did too. And FrostiaK just gets absolutely crushed by a great ultimate from Crimson. But then the patience from Layers, he waits out that rewind. Here's the problem, though, Graham. Outcold can just all in this time.
I know, because they've got a Horus too, and we've seen a couple of these
Yeah.
Horus plays happen before. That ultimate is available, and all he's got to do...
Titan health is what, like 2K? They've got to
Layers
fight
gonna
right
ult
here.
early. Layers gonna try and stop it. Goes for Spudio. Spudio's low, but he gets the
got it off.
rewind off in time. Now Breez on the front line is gonna try and slow Layers down from getting to Prime. Layers still in amongst the pigeons, but he won't live much longer. Horus channels the ultimate, but defensively, this is a battle of taking lives at this moment. And one by one, Hype Unit fall. They were so close. They put on a fight, but it's
Crimson?
not gonna be enough.
Crimson just did a lot of damage, though. FrostiaK
Not
just
enough.
survives alongside Prime, and that should do it. They've got to get a Phoenix here because the Titan is healing up a little bit.
But Spudio is going to be there to whack away on the Phoenix. Right-hand Phoenix falling 2. It's on Crimson, but he can't find the evade and punish, and he's going to get zoned away from Breez. Great work from Outcold. Unfortunate for Hype Unit.
So close for Hype Unit, man. What a game 3. Layers, man. What a performance from him. Wolves has a great game as well. And that last fight, I wonder, man, what could have been. But Spudio getting that rewind off changes the entire course of it all.
It was so close.
I don't know that Crimson's ult found him there. I think they tried to execute in an early beats from Spudio. He's got relics, so it's not a guarantee by any stretch. But Hype Unit, I mean, just a couple inches away from winning this set.
I think the difference there between those two was really the matter of the rewind. Like, it was
Yep.
so close. If the rewind wasn't up at that time, so that could have gone the other way. If he falls down there, they don't potentially have the turnaround damage.
Maybe.
But Hype Unit, what a great play from them today, especially after the performances yesterday and the way people have spoke about them on social media. They're out to try and prove something today, and it's not an easy task taking on that Outcold gaming team. How do you feel about Outcold gaming here today, though?
Still my same concerns that I had coming in. FrostiaK is still really hot and cold. Breez's early game still has some question marks sometimes. Overall, I think Spudio looked great today, and I think that's a good sign for them. Prime did not look great, though. That's another thing. Dimi and Spudio looked like the two headliners alongside Breez once he got his feet underneath him. We've got to see a little bit more consistency, I think, from FrostiaK and Prime.
Outcold gaming take it 2-1. It was a close endeavor. Hype Unit will move down to the lower bracket. Outcold march on. We'll be back after the break to break down some of Game 3.
Welcome back into the path to the SMITE World Championship. We are in placement weeks right now. And man, if you thought maybe you could just sleep through set 1 or something like that, then boy, did you miss out on a big one. But it's Outcold, the SML EU reps, or in the second place from SML EU, that come out on top here. But Zeros, Hype Unit put up a hell of a fight here in this game. I mean, how many times did it look like they were about to snatch that one away from Outcold towards the end?
Yeah, there's so many good individual players from both teams, honestly. But Layers on this 4 had so many huge dunks. He was one-shotting, like that fight. I thought he was gonna lose the game. Then he dunks down, one-shot Spudio and Prime, I think it was. And just like, unfortunately, they lose the game anyway. That was so unfortunate, that ending, man.
Yeah, I mean, it really was. That Spudio just barely gets that rewind off towards the end, and he's able to kind of keep fighting from then and help them out a lot. But this game just came down to so many different small things, and that it even got that close is surprising, because Outcold were actually in a really commanding spot in that mid towards the beginning of the late game phase. And it starts off with Prime having a good start to the game. They do end up trading his supports there, but they got first blood. Outcold are farming the map better in the early game, and Hype Unit still made some good plays though throughout.
Yeah, these are the 4 outs I'm talking about, like 2-man outs and 3-man outs. Like, he got so many big 4 outs this game, so just what a performance.
I mean, and there's so many things that Hype Unit did that makes you wonder, what if they hadn't? This is the fight here in left. This is over a tier 1 tower, I believe, right? I mean, no chance they were getting it with their composition. They end up getting basically wiped tier 4 for 2. This was such a brutal fight for them.
Yeah, as you said about the composition, very bad objective damage, right? They have a Thoth and a
Merlin,
and a Merlin, to deal kill. If they had anything else, imagine if they had the Chronos on their side for that last push they did, they would probably have ended the game.
They really could have had a chance, and you're talking about that final Titan push where Wolves stayed back to defend, the other 4 were pushing, and they ended up having to send oBoronic back to help Wolves. But this was the play, man. And Outcold, I don't want to hear any bad talk about them. They had 2 sentry wards, and somehow 1 regular ward is right in between to reveal the whole plan.
There was literally pixel.
Perfectly.
Yeah, exactly that ward.
No bad talk about Outcold on that one. That's just fortuitous for Hype Unit.
Look at that. That's a dunk, a free, and 1 auto to kill 2 people all alone. That's pretty insane.
And this was the big play that made it look like Hype Unit might be able to counter-push down the lane, but they couldn't quite do it. Hype Unit takes this fight outside of the Phoenix, knowing the Titan's too low for a regular base defense, but Spudio survives in those last few minutes, and they're able to turn things back around. Prime turns into the Amaterasu. Turns out that's a pretty good transformation, by the way. Shout out to Game 2, and it ends up being a big saving grace. Yeah,
Spudio as well, like really good performance on the Chronos pretty much every game. I think he played Chronos all 3 games, so like I definitely think that's something that team's gonna look at when they play against him in the upcoming games. I'm not sure if they're gonna give Spudio the Chronos.
It's tough, man. I mean, I think that Hype Unit, one thing they have to work out is if they are gonna run this double mage composition, I don't know if against this level of competition that you're gonna be able to win your fights by enough that you're gonna be able to get away with no push power on these towers. They're gonna need to get that Ola run of the Chronos or something in there to help them push.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like Spudio, like they've had the Chronos every game, right? So they do have the objective and the push power, but like if that gets taken away, like maybe he goes to Oleron as well. Like Oleron has the same. He has also a lot of objective damage and good tower push. So
that's right. I mean, I think it might potentially be a weakness for Hype Unit going forward. It's Outcold though, who are the ones that come out on top. This one might have been closer than even they expected. So we got Dimi and Prime standing by for the interview, so we have a chance to hear their thoughts.
Finch, that's right. I've got Prime and Dimi standing by. Guys, congratulations on a close win. Game 3, you guys get wiped right near their Titan. Was there any level of concern at all throughout that set?
There was a lot of confusion. I don't think we knew if they could end it or not, and then slowly we could see the minion waves chipping away at their Titan, and then we realized they don't have Hunter. And then it was like, okay, we can do this, we can hold this, and then Frosty showed up, felt nice.
I feel like as soon as we died, we thought it was just over.
Yeah, it felt really bad.
I want to talk about the whole set as a whole. How do you feel about Hype Unit's performance and your own performance based off that first set we saw today?
I think they performed better than I thought they would, and I feel like we performed a lot worse. But sometimes, you know, you gotta feed a bit to get your boys to feel comfortable in the game.
Yeah, especially when they're new.
Yeah, I took one for Spud and Breez, really.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about Breez, man. I mean, his first LAN as a SMITE player, certainly not in MOBAs in general. I mean, I think that he's grown so much throughout this phase. Were you impressed with his play as well today?
I was impressed. I was also impressed when he asked if Sylvanus is the guy with the hook. But like, it did work out in the end, and he did show up. He saved me a couple times. It felt nice.
Now, you two have been around the block a while. I think, what is it, like 4 or 5 finals for the pair of you overall, I'd say. Looking at Worlds this year, is there any like super favorite from your point of view, outside of yourselves, of course? Like, is there any other team that you think may have an edge this year?
Well, would be the guys that almost beat us, because if they almost beat us, they gotta be up there.
That makes sense to me. That logic checks out. Guys, you get to play
yeah.
against SK Gaming next up in the bracket. What have you seen from them? How do you think you match up there?
What have you seen from?
You watch all the replays, don't you?
I do watch all the replays. I think they play very well right now. Their team play and togetherness has really struck me. And
The map play.
the map play also, and the mechanics. Like, it all comes together. I think it's going to be a tough opponent overall.
Great work on that answer, Prime. Really, really nicely done. Guys, congratulations on your win and good luck moving forward in the bracket. Stick with us here on the broadcast. Set 2 coming up.
Thank you.
Thank you.